I'd like to call this meeting of the Colerain Township Board of Trustees to order. Mrs. Harlow, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Insco?
Aye.
Mr. Rashagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Here. I'd ask that you all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd ask that you remain standing for a moment of silent prayer for a man named David Evans, who was a Rumpke driver who very sadly, suddenly and quickly passed away a couple weeks ago. And it's a very dangerous job being out in the street. So I'd ask for a little silent prayer for all the people whose job puts them out in the traffic, and that the Lord would watch over them. So a moment of silence, please.
If I could briefly add to that, also the loss of one of our employees on Friday. Please keep him and his friends and family in your thoughts and prayers. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item is Mrs. Harlow. I don't know where mine is.
I have the minutes of the special meeting of July 24th. For your approval. If you have any.
I would motion that we accept those minutes.
I will second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Heather, please call for a vote.
Mr. Insco?
Aye.
Mr. Rashagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye. Next item, Jeff, I'll let you introduce this.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Unger. The first item on the agenda tonight is a presentation. It's a proclamation recognizing Mr. Steve Cassidy's service to our community. As Mr. Insco just stated, Mr. Cassidy passed away on Friday. He was a very generous man. He gave a lot of his time to Colerain Township. He participated and volunteered with our summer events committee since the mid-'90s. He was employed here in a part-time capacity for the last 2 years. He's a good man, and he died very quickly, and we'll miss him. Trustee Insco wanted to memorialize this with a proclamation and turn it over to Mr. Insco.
Thank you. This proclamation recognizes August 14th, 2018 as Steve Cassidy Senior Day in Colerain Township. Be it proclaimed by the Township of Trustees, Colerain Township, that whereas Steve Cassidy has been involved in the Summer Events Committee since the mid-1990s as the entertainment coordinator and an employee for the Township for over 2 years, and whereas Steve Cassidy, along with his entire family, has volunteered countless hours for the Taste of Colerain and the 4th of July Spectacular, as well as several additional smaller occasions, through good times and bad, to ensure the success of the Township's events for the benefit of all of our residents, and has further assisted in the success of a multitude of weddings and special occasions as an employee of the Senior and Community Center. And whereas volunteers that demonstrate the long-standing commitment Steve Cassidy has had are incredibly rare and deserve to be commended for their hard work and dedication. And whereas Steve Cassidy lost his battle with cancer on August 10th, 2018, less than a month after being diagnosed. His death will leave a noticeable void in our community and in our hearts. Our sympathy goes out to his family and many friends. And therefore be it proclaimed that the Colerain Township Board of Trustees does hereby recognize August 14th, 2018 as Steve Cassidy Day in Colerain Township. Thank you all. It's very sweet. Thank you.
And one more thing to recognize him sort of in memoriam, we've engraved a stone that will go at our memorial corner at Springdale and Colerain, just so that we don't forget.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Jeff. Next item.
Next item on the agenda is a recognition of 25 years of service to the fire department. Chief Cook.
Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
This evening, I'd like to recognize 2 employees that have dedicated 25 years of providing public safety to our community. At this time, I'd ask that firefighters Joe Grayson and Doug Rory please come forward. For the past 25 years, these two men, veteran firefighters and paramedics, have worked skillfully in providing fire protection and emergency medical services to this community. Having done so for this length of time, I want to extend appreciation on behalf of the township's elected officials, administration, the Department of Fire and EMS, and the citizens for your loyalty in serving Colerain Township community. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Board.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Are we supposed to demand a speech from them? Is that how this works? They're halfway out the door, no speech. Thank you, congrats.
The next item on the agenda is the swearing in of new police officer, Mr. Robert Nash. Chief?
Thank you, Board. Last month, the Board approved the appointment of Officer Robert Nash to the position of police officer. Robert's a 2014 graduate of Harrison High School and a 2017 graduate of the Scarlet Oaks Police Academy. Until recently, he was employed with the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office. So I'd like to invite him to come forward with his family if he wants to sit forward.
Perfect.
I, Robert Nash. Do solemnly swear. I will uphold the Constitution of the United States of America. The Constitution of the State of Ohio and its bylaws. I will abide by the Colerain Police Department mission and values statement.
Colerain Township Police Department mission and values statement.
Code of ethics.
Code of ethics.
Rules and regulations.
Rules and regulations.
And policy and procedure.
Policy and procedure.
I will faithfully discharge the duties of a police officer.
I will faithfully discharge the duties of police officer
In and for Colerain Township.
in Colerain Township,
Hamilton County.
Hamilton County,
State of Ohio.
State of Ohio,
To the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability,
So help me God.
so help me God.
Thank you.
Get a Band-Aid, that's what I want, a Band-Aid. I'm terrified right now. Congrats, congrats.
That concludes our presentations for the evening.
Thank you. I'll allow these folks a second to, you're welcome to stay. I'll allow you a moment to walk out before we get to our next item, which is citizens' address. We have 13 requests to speak. As you know, we don't run a clock here, but with 13 requests, if everybody can keep it around 4 or 5 minutes, then we'll get done in about an hour. So, and we've got these separated out, so my address is on tonight's agenda, or my address is not on tonight's agenda. I have one that's for tonight's agenda, and that would start out with Rich McVeigh.
All right. While he's walking up to the mic, I want to acknowledge him. We just left the ribbon cutting at the new school, and they gave Rich a really nice shout out for helping save, what was the rumor, $10 million or something like that? Yeah. You're worth your weight in gold from what they said, so thank you for that.
Have a lot of good help. Thank you. Trustees, I'd like to talk a little bit tonight about the strategic plan that Mr. Mills has put together and make a few comments and ask a few questions. I like the work that's been done by the township and Mr. Mills in this area. He has said clearly that the strategy is going to be used to prioritize the many demands on our time and resources. This is what you use strategies for. Many of the plans described will, when implemented, improve the efficiency and the effectiveness of the administration, and this is a good thing. I've looked through it, and it's kind of lengthy, but I saw some new things in there that, particularly from Director Randolph, a lot of initiatives in her area of the business, which I think are going to have a significant impact on how we run the place more effectively. And I see other work that some is a repeat in the planning and zoning department, so we're going to get another shot at what we started to do last time. I would say, Board, you need to recognize that strategies by design are developed to clarify what an organization will and will not do. A strategy provides focus and motivation for future efforts. And given this, I have some questions for the trustees. In your visits to neighborhoods, what have you heard residents say about where and how they need help? I know you guys were just over there last weekend at Pocket Picnic, so you heard some things about what residents say they need relative to help, and also about what help they're already getting. My question to you is, how does the strategy meet these needs? And most importantly, how will things be different in our neighborhoods 1, 2, 3, and 5 years from now based on this strategy? So if we implement this, what we need to understand is how things will be different in our neighborhoods. What clearly will change and what clearly will remain the same. I recently looked at the record of home sales in Colerain Township in June through July of 2018. The data analysis revealed of those homes selling for $100,000 or less, 1/3 were bought by LLCs or absent landlords for rental purposes. In all of 2017, the same number was about 20%. It appears the number of absent landowners are increasing. Some inspection of the data revealed that many homes are purchased at less than they were previously listed on the books. So we have changing land ownership, and we have some reduction in the net asset value of the neighborhood. I'm not against renters and landlords. I mean, if you look at the data, more people are renting today than in the past. There are fewer homeowners, so being a landlord and renting is not an issue, and I don't have an issue with it. I recognize that there are activities underway that are intended to improve our neighborhoods. Road improvements, neighborhood group developments, for example, like you have going in Northbrook. As I said in the last meeting, it's the pace of change that is concerning to me. And based on the trend of absent landowner purchases, it may be approaching the tipping point if a dramatic intervention is not quickly made. This is why I think our singular focus should be to develop our neighborhoods. Our singular focus. This means business will receive necessary attention, while the major focus and objective of the township should result in neighborhood renewal. To provide some additional perspective on why focus on neighborhoods, let me share some data from the Hamilton County Auditor's Office. It's on his website. All the businesses in Colerain Township together have an appraised value of $219 million. In gross spec, the appraised, this is the assessed value, is $1.2 million, $122 million. In Northbrook, the assessed value is $120 million. If you take Northbrook and Groesbeck together, their assessed value is more than all the business in Colerain Township. And you have to think about who's getting our attention. Now, the top 25 taxpayers in Colerain Township, that's businesses, are worth $130 million. So Northbrook by itself is worth as much as the top 25 businesses in our township. Director LeCount and I had a conversation the other day about the progress we were making in getting nuisance complaints handled and chronic property maintenance issues into the courts. We're making improvement. We're getting better at handling the processing of the issues, yet the absolute number of issues is remaining relatively constant over the past several years. To say it another way, we've not experienced systemic change in the number of complaints. We're getting better at handling them, which is good. The number of complaints is staying relatively the same. Now, the future of our township resides in improving the quality of life in our neighborhoods and improving our schools. The school district has invested over $75 million in their 3 new elementary schools and the township needs to make the needed neighborhood investment to support these efforts. Lighting, walks, neighborhood parks, whatever it takes to bring these things back. Our neighborhoods require a higher priority and more attention. The data would say that. So I will implore the trustees to make the decision that neighborhood renewal is your strategic choice. That is your strategic choice. Focus and unleash the talents of the township employees and focus them on neighborhood renewal. Do you have any questions?
Not at this time, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rich.
Thanks, Rich. Our next person who's got a topic on tonight's agenda is Stephanie Wright.
Good evening, Stephanie.
Hi, Stephanie.
Hello. I have a couple of things regarding the agenda this evening. One would be directed towards the agreement with the school resource officer agreement that the township is going to enter perhaps into this evening. I looked over that and I was wondering who prepared this? Did the township prepare this or did the school board? Oh, the township did? Okay. I suggest that maybe you guys reread that because there's some typos in there, FYI. And also, while I was looking over that, something struck me on it that I found kind of concerning or alarming. In there it says, the officer's primary assignment during the school year shall be to the Northwest Local School District Board of Education, unless an immediate need for the officer to respond as a patrol officer is identified on behalf of the community or Colerain Township Police. So if I'm understanding that paragraph correctly, if there were a larger issue in our township, we would pull the police officer from our school district to assess an emergency situation. Is that correct?
Yes, that's an option we would have, yes.
Okay. So as an option we have in that contract is not an option that we have with the Northgate Mall contract. I believe it said in there that that officer would be assigned to that location and would not be removed from there. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. As a resident, I might have a little problem with that we would leave our schools unattended in absence when something catastrophe happened in our township, but rest assured that the mall would be protected. Another thing I have about that is the money that's being set aside for this or being paid for this. Those figures, how do they compare to the previous figures that we were spending on this agreement with the school?
Can you
Sure.
elaborate on your question?
In 2018, 2019, we've set aside $420,537.49. So I'm just wondering, we've had this agreement with the Northwest Local Schools prior. What was that dollar amount?
It was lower, but off the top of my head, it's hard to know, but it was lower before.
Okay, it was lower.
About $125,000 lower.
About $125,000 lower? Okay. The next question I have is the zoning this evening. We are doing some abatements on property. How many of those are repeat offenders?
None of, well, for this year alone?
No, on the ones we're doing this evening, the 7 parcels that we have tonight.
For 2018, they should not have yet been on a resolution, so all of these should be new.
Okay.
They may be repeats from last year, but I don't have that information in front of me.
Okay. Thank you. And then at another meeting, I had mentioned seeing a pattern with this nuisance and abatement properties, that a lot of them do seem to be repeat offenders year after year after year. And I had suggested that perhaps the Board of Trustees or the administration look into some type of tiering for offenses, like your first offense, it's such and such dollar amount, but if you keep abusing that, then I believe that more fees should be incurred if nothing else, is a little bit of a deterrent. Just my suggestion, and I would like for the board or whoever to check into that. And tonight we are also, you all are presenting the bylaws for Colerain Township for 2 committees that are going to be formed. Excuse me. And looking over those, did the trustees put this together? Did the administration put together? Who put these laws in?
I did.
You did, Mr. Mills, you did? Okay. I had a couple of questions about them. Looking over the bylaws for the Colerain Township Financial Advisory Committee, everyone can look at this, I'm not going to read it to you, but on there it's going to supposedly appoint 4 members, and then those members would have voting rights, and then there would be 4 people who already work for the township that would have non-voting rights.
There'd be 5 voting members.
Okay, correct. And I was just wondering why we keep having the same people on the same committees. On this letter, or on these bylaws, you state that the members should be a resident of Colerain Township. However, 3 of the 4 employees of the township that would serve on this office are not residents.
It says voting members, right?
Correct.
So the voting members are the 5.
Okay, I'm still talking just about the board in general. The people that you're appointing to be a non-voting member of the Financial Advisory Committee for our township are employees who pay no taxes to our township, and I don't think it's necessary that those people serve on every board that we have in the township. It seems like a lot of the hands are in the same pot, and I would look for more of a diversity if at all possible. And also, it said that all voting members must be residents of Colerain Township or the owner, officer of a business located in the township. I think that is, I don't agree with that. I don't think that a business owner should have something to say on our Financial Advisory Committee. My 2 cents worth. Also, it says that they cannot have contributed to a financial campaign in the past 4 years. What about employees who have contributed to financial campaigns that might be serving on this board? Is that not a conflict of interest?
I would think that would be non-voting members.
I don't know.
And ultimately, this board, the 3 of us, will make a decision on who we approve.
Well, you have some say in it. You don't have all say in it. The administrator has a vote. You all have a vote, but it's not totally.
To run the place, so
It's totally not
we're
your.
gonna
It's
get
not
him
100% your call. Okay.
Little help doing his homework with
Sure.
people that we decide to appoint as your elected trustees.
Okay. On the Comprehensive Plan Use Committee, they've listed 4 communities that they're going to pick a representative from each community. As far as I can count, there are 12 to 18 communities within Colerain Township. 4 of them I don't think is a fair percentage of a representation of our community. With 60,000 residents, I think that besides Pleasant Run, Northgate, Grossbreck, and Western Colerain Township, I think a couple of more representatives from some other communities within our township would be a good move.
Do you have a suggestion, like Peach Grove or anything like?
No, I don't have one suggestion. I'm just thinking I think it'd be a little more diverse. And also, Pleasant Run Farms is not in Colerain Township. That's in Springfield Township, so you might want to change that on here. And then on here, we're also going to give voting members, they must be a resident of Colerain Township or the owner, officer, or full-time employee of a business. So I can work at McDonald's full-time, not live in Colerain Township, and be on this board?
You would have to have one of the 3 of us pick you.
But that's a possibility.
We'll pick who we decide to pick. We are the elected board.
Oh, perfect. Okay, and then, like I said, the campaign finance thing, have you all even pulled those to see who the contributors were for those campaigns?
Are you asking me?
Anybody?
We'll find out when the nominees come forward.
Okay. And then I also wanted to mention that these two bylaws, will those now become standard practice for any committee in Colerain Township?
We'll see how it goes.
It's a pilot program.
Am I talking to Dan Unger or Larry Barbier? I'm not sure.
Oh, too soon.
Okay.
No, it's Stephanie, everybody's been honest to get the committees going, and
Okay.
there has not been a more open board of trustees here in many, many years,
Okay.
and we'll get it figured out.
Okay. Will these minutes be recorded? Or meetings be recorded or minutes taken?
They are meetings with Jeff to help him figure out how to
So
give
will
him
minutes
assistance.
be kept?
You'll see.
I know what it says.
So then you know the answer.
I'm asking the three of them. Are minutes kept?
It must be recorded. It must be
There's
recorded.
meeting summaries that are kept.
So you guys didn't answer?
Jeff's
Okay.
going to be
Well,
keeping
if
the
a
meeting
meeting is
summaries. I
being
don't
held-
intend on being at those meetings.
Okay. If a meeting is being held on behalf of the township and votes are being taken, I would like it that those minutes are available to residents as public record. And also, the zoning of appeals, I was just wondering if we're going to put these bylaws into all zoning and BZA people that are going to be up for renewal in December 2018. Each of those committees, the Board of Zoning Appeals has 2 positions available that will expire on December 2018, and also so does the Zoning Commission. And I would encourage anyone in our township to follow the procedure and apply for those positions if they're interested in bettering our community. And again, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you.
The first two have gone 8 minutes and 11 minutes. I'm going to ask everybody, try to keep it, you can go over, but try to keep it around 5 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and call on Richard Thompson, if he's in the room. Hello, Richard.
How you doing?
And you are not tonight's agenda, but because we're going over, I'm gonna give you a chance to talk early.
The reason I'm here tonight is I moved to Colerain Township approximately 31 years ago. And the reason I moved here because when I picked out my lot, it was on Fairglen Drive, which wasn't even named at that time. And it was, even though it wasn't a dead end, there was no through traffic. The park, Clipper Park, is a great addition to the community. However, it created a pass-through where now I'm living on Main Street. We also have people coming up in the evenings hanging out in the park. The police have been there the last 2 nights and ran people out. It looked like, they've turned out a party. And this is after 11 o'clock at night. We've requested before to have gates, which is a cheap, simple solution to the problem. You won't have people hanging out in the park. You won't have through traffic, and you won't have cars speeding past where you have decided to make a main entrance to the park where families and children are walking on a regular basis. And I don't want to live on Main Street. I've been here 31 years. I'm 72 years old. I like to die in my house. But, if it continues the way it is, I can't stay here. So please consider putting a gate on the Clifford Park. It's inexpensive, and the benefits would be great to the whole community. Thank you.
Mr. Thompson, could you approach the board and give me your phone number so I can follow up?
Real quick, while he's doing that, Kevin, do we have someone that can, seasonal or whatnot, come and lock those gates? Or maybe I should ask Frank and Mark first if there's a EMS response reason why we can't or don't close those gates.
Okay, thank you so much.
We don't have gates,
But if we install them, forgive me.
and I have a price for that. I have talked to Mark about it a little bit, about how we would lock them and unlock them. Locking them isn't really a problem. Just in the morning, you have to make sure they're unlocked so people who are going to use the park for good reasons are able to get in.
Oh, I love that.
Sorry, I'm sorry. You need
Okay.
to come to the microphone and,
Well, that's fine.
If you need somebody,
We will follow up with you.
I don't have a job. So I would
We've got your phone number. I will have, Kevin will follow
Thank
up
you.
with you. I've got your phone number. And thank you for staying within the time. Kathy Moore?
How you doing, Kathy?
I'm great. How are you? I just wanted to address the school resource officer, and I wanted to know if this contract covers all payroll obligations for the officers, that the amount the school is going to pay, they are paying for the total cost of the school resource officer.
Dating back to when we first began the SRO program, they had an agreement. They would pay half, and we would pay half. So there is a difference in that. They're not paying full rate for some of the SROs. We're paying half and half on that. And then the detectives, we are charging the full rate. So it doesn't come out to be an exactly full rate for everybody if you add it together.
Okay, so we are paying part of that?
Yes.
Okay. I did have a question that Stephanie asked about the officer being pulled from the school, because I think if anything is happening, we need to have an officer in our schools a little more than we do them all. And it says in here that if a school resource officer is sick or in training or otherwise off work for more than 2 consecutive working days, an officer shall be assigned by the township at the same rate of pay, blah, blah, blah. And they will make an effort to provide a substitute. So, I mean, is it possible that there would be days if an officer called in sick and that we would not have a school resource officer?
We've not had that happen. In the past, we've had sick days, and the sergeant in charge of that unit goes up and works it.
Okay, so we
make
do
sure
have a
it is covered.
replace. Okay,
Yes.
good. Okay, good. Okay, and then on the FAC committee, where it says the member requirements, I do not think that it is appropriate for the owner or officer of a business located in Colerain to be on that committee. I think it should be a resident. And then there's examples of policies that are going to be reviewed and recommended, and I guess I'm kind of confused on that because it says like revenue policies, tax levy policies, and capital budget policies. I mean, those figures are what they are. I don't know exactly how you can have establish a policy for amount of money you're receiving. It just kind of seems kind of not necessary for me. That I think that the people on the board need to have some accounting knowledge to help make recommendations for what our department heads say they need, and then it reviewed by the Financial Advisory Committee. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kathy. Because I wanted to get some of these folks up here, and thank you for staying within the time, Kathy. Bonita Sargent.
How you doing, Benina?
And like a bad penny, I'm back.
Heads up.
I came to the meeting right when this gentleman was being introduced as coming on to the township administration, so it's been a couple months. Nothing has changed in my neighborhood. As a matter of fact, it's getting worse. I know that the police officer, I've talked to Mark Denny, I've talked to Detective Hendricks. I know they're doing everything humanly possible. But I have to agree with that gentleman right there and that lady right there, that the focus that I voted for you three was to focus on the neighborhood. That is why I voted you three in, because those were the promises you three made. The neighborhoods that he named, Groesbeck, Northbrook, they're going downhill fast. Exactly what he said. Exactly what he said. Renters are coming in. These are owners of these houses live in LA, Florida, wherever they live. The enforcement code person I talked to, we have a process. The lady I have to live next door to, that my sister who's here with me has to live next door to, who had the hypodermic needle in her garage driveway, who has 20 tons of trash, who's now painting cars in her driveway, and we have to inhale the fumes for the last 3 days and 3 nights and puke and gag. Officer in Colerain Township, there's nothing we can do. I understand that. He has a right to do what he wants to do in his driveway. But at some point, you three that I voted for, this commanding officer, these other residents here, you have to do what we're asking you to do for the neighborhood. I don't care about the businesses anymore. I've been in the neighborhood 43 years. I've paid taxes for 43 years. I've supported Colerain Township for 43 years. When do I, the average American citizen, get to have 2 hours of nice time in my neighborhood? Cars flying up and down the street at 45 miles an hour. Drugs being bought and sold, house next door to me. Drugs being bought and sold, houses 2 down from me. People threatening in broad daylight, I'm going to pull a gun and shoot you in front of my grandson in broad daylight. Call the police officers. They're doing their job. They're responding. What do you think they do when they see a police officer coming up the street? Boom, houses. I didn't witness it. I didn't see it. There's nothing we can do. The trash is keep moving in. The riffraff keeps moving in from Mount Airy. Every house that's being sold, they look at this house next to me and my sister and say, that trash has been there since March. It's growing exponentially, so let's have our sons, our grandchildren, you can bring all your trash over here, put it in our garage, put it in our backyard, put it in our side yard, because Colerain Township don't care. And that gentleman there told me the last time, the reason is because other townships has economical higher residents. That's an insult to me as a Colerain Township resident. You don't profile for any reason. He's not allowed to racial profile. He shouldn't be allowed economical profile. Just because somebody comes into the neighborhood that doesn't make $100,000 a year, that doesn't cost to get your trash out. That doesn't cost to stop the drugs. That doesn't cost for you to quit flying up and down the street and quit coming to my neighborhood when you don't live there and threaten in front of my grandson to pull a gun out and shoot somebody in broad daylight. So he's absolutely right. She's absolutely right. You're not doing what you promised. The neighborhoods come first, not the business, not the traffic lights, not the EMTs adding to them. And if they can't handle it, this is something you don't want to hear. Bring back Hamilton County Sheriff.
Thank you, Benita. I would comment that on any given week, I'm out 3 or 4 nights looking at people that contact me through the township. I was out at 8:30 last night taking pictures of a house over on Harry Lee Lane. So, and I know these other two run around and look at stuff too. So I don't want the end of your story to be that the trustees are doing nothing because we are out. And I send this stuff to Jeff and he sends it to Jenna. And I'm trusting that you've reported all these things. And so we're not sitting around doing nothing.
Okay, you misunderstood me. I said since March of this year, I've had to deal with this neighbor next door.
Does Jenna have that address?
Everybody knows this neighborhood.
Do you have that address, Jenna?
Knows this house. Who's the code enforcer? Somebody named Carvalho? He knows me on a first name basis.
So, but we do have that.
Oh, well, guess because we're going to house court next Tuesday. And when the process of house court is, she's been in violation with all this crap since March. If she doesn't show up, which she's not because she's not the owner, her mother is, and she didn't give the summons to her mother, then what happens now? Oh, the judge will set another court date for October. So in the meantime, monkey see, monkey do. Everybody that's moving into my neighborhood saying, oh, you got a nice trashy neighborhood. Oh, you're allowed to do this, or you're allowed to do that. North Bend, Ohio, Cleves, the village of Cleves. I can go on and on. But I was told by him, well, that's because of the economical profile residents we have here. No, that has nothing to do with it. It's because the process of the code enforcement is too lackadaisical. And I know you're not a city, you're a township. You have different rules. You don't go by the township goes by different rules. But in the meantime, we're getting riffraff and trash, and it's exploding. So you have to come out of your white ivory towers, and the code enforcer has to be get a better way of doing this, and somebody in the house courts needs to be on the ball, because we are going to turn into Mount Airy in about 3 years.
Okay,
Ma'am,
thank you. Go ahead, Rod.
Juanita, excuse me, ma'am. I think 2 meetings ago, there was 2 ladies came, talked about the crime going on. And then we talked about chief about this. I think that particular weeks, that police officers, they're knocking on each doors, talking to the residents. What's going on, how to improve this. neighborhood. I think this is steps, only we can do this forcefully, have cooperation with this police officer. Now, the initial steps I did is bringing the juvenile court here, the downtown court here. All the juveniles that you having a problem, the police officer is going to, we're going to have a court right here, I think starting September. So most of the vandalizing the neighborhood, a lot of juveniles coming out of other areas.
All adults. I'm speaking about all adults. The guy that pulled the gun on my grandson, threatened the grandson, the two people next door to my daughter that are selling drugs, the house next to me, all 30 and over, all adults. All adults.
And you call every time and report everything, right?
Every time. I've got people on the whole street calling every
Perfect.
time.
Strength in
and then
numbers.
I get ostracized on Facebook like, people like you, BITCHESs, you're calling our cops out for stupid stuff. Well, come live in my neighborhood and see what we have to live with and what we have to put up with. And we're moving out. We're all going to move out. So eventually you're going to have all people like next door neighbors to me, because trash and riffraff invites trash and riffraff. Oh, okay, we'll buy here. This fits right in with our neighborhood.
I certainly buy into the broken window syndrome or theory. Kevin, can you speak to the road update back there? Road back in the Royal Heights subdivision road
That ain't
repaving.
where I live either.
You didn't leave an address on your,
For a purpose, because
That's
this
fine.
is being filmed and she probably watches.
okay.
So
Well, thank you.
Detective Hendricks knows everything. Talk to
we-
him.
Thank you for addressing the trustees and making us aware. Thank you. Our next speaker will be Sharon Slagar. Hello, Sharon.
First, I wanted to ask, since when are you allowed to paint cars in your driveway? She said something about them
paint
painting
cars?
cars in their driveway. Since when?
I don't,
It's allowed. That's all.
It used to be illegal, so I don't know why they're not.
It might be an EPA thing. I'm not aware.
okay. So anyway,
Great reason why I'm here. First, I wanted to thank Greg and Dan especially for coming down and to the walkway and helping us with it. Once the sign got fixed, because they spelled Colerain wrong,
Yeah.
it was doing. It has done pretty good. Our problem. The sign does say that the police department is patrolling it. They're not. They can say that they are. They can show us paperwork. I have had this with Denny a couple weeks ago, where he told me that there was a couple officers that had come down at 12:45 in the afternoon, went back, looked on my cameras. I was sitting on my porch from 12 to 2 that day. Not one cop came down that street. So, and I talked to Stacy, the lady down the street, before I came here, and she said she had been gone for a week, so she really didn't know. But so far, nobody's been there. So, my question for that is, when are they actually going to start patrolling that?
They've been there 9 times in the last 4 days.
Okay, I want to see the paperwork, because I'll look back on my cameras.
Absolutely get that. Stop over and I'll give you a copy of it.
Okay, because I want to look back on my cameras, because you
It was
told me that
12:45
once
at night.
before.
It was 12:45 at night, not 12:45
Well, I know there
in the
was
afternoon.
Thursday night a cop that came down around 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. He didn't go down to the catwalk. He went down the hinge and went on down the street. He had nothing to do with that catwalk
You
down
have
there.
the ability to see down that catwalk as well.
You
Instead
can't
of,
really see down that catwalk because of how
I've done it
dark
myself,
it
you
is.
can.
Well, how dark it is, you can't.
anyway, go on.
Yes. So, okay, I wanted to thank you guys for coming there and stuff. And the police, well, you said you'd give me paper, but what are we going to do when I look on my cameras and see that nobody actually...
That's another, we'll
Yeah,
let him
well-
take care of that offline. Go on.
Okay, and our streets, if you go more than 7 miles an hour, you feel like you're a human bobblehead. I mean, when is that? How are they? There's potholes, huge potholes in our roads. They're not going to fix them now that the construction's going on back there?
They're digging up the road for numerous reasons. First, they put in the storm line. Now they put in water line. Now they're putting in gas line. So it's continually tearing up the road. They do put metal plates down where areas that are open.
Yeah, but I'm talking about actual potholes, not where they have torn it up or nothing. There are potholes like there was
We do
once.
come out and do some patching.
I mean, you
I'll
feel
be
like
the
a
first to admit
bobblehead.
the
You
road's
can't-
terrible. You got to drive 7 miles an hour.
Oh, I drive 5, and people get pissed when they're behind me because they like to fly, and those are the people that are complaining about their cars. Well, yeah. You go 90, you go, like the speed limit's 25, you go 30 down there, of course you're going to damage your car. You know, I piss them off because I'll go 5 miles an hour.
So we've torn it up for 3 different things so far, and it's actually, you want to hear this, it's probably actually going to get worse before it gets better, because eventually we're going to tear the entire road up 27 inches down.
Yeah, they told me that, I think it's RLA, they're the ones doing the gas lines.
Yes.
They're the ones that had shut Jackie's completely, right where that car lot is, or car dealer, or neighborhood garage, right there. Shut that whole thing down, dug about a 3-foot hole completely across the road. I sat there for 20 minutes one day waiting to get my car out because they had this big hole. What if a fire would have happened? What if somebody would have needed a life squad?
We'll get people back there.
There's absolutely no way with that big ass hole in the road.
They have steel plates.
Well, they would have had to been quick.
I can speak to that, and Benita, to address Benita and Sharon at the same time, since I got you both. I got that call about the potholes, so we sent them out there and fixed some of them. And the same guy that called me complaining about the potholes called me back and said, now people are speeding. He was better off with the potholes. I said, well, I can't win. You know what I mean? I'm only human. But it's a long, slow, awful process that you'll love in the end. That's the one thing that I'm confident about. But
the guys from Rack and stuff, they're really nice. They are super nice. It's that RLA that keeps leaving the big ass potholes and the blocking the road, so you can't go nowhere or nothing. Okay, are we getting lights in our catwalk? Or the walkway? I call it the catwalk. It's only a cat can see walking through there. Are you getting?
I think that's a very recent question that has come up in an email that we have not discussed it.
Yeah, so there's a number of ways to get a light back there. In townships, you have to create a lighting district if you want lights. I think that there already are street lights back in your neighborhood. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's just none in that catwalk, and it's dark as can be. You can't see. You can't even see your hand in front of you when you're walking through there.
Right, and so one thing that just came up this week as an alternative is to add another light to that lighting district that would help
in that catwalk.
Yeah, illuminate that catwalk. So that's something that our lighting district expert is actually going on vacation starting Thursday. So she'll be, when she gets back, we'll have her look into that, how to add a light there.
Actually, the people from Northbrook, they were making an assessment for the lighting. The lighting district. I spoke with Frank Barkenauer, former administrator here, and he's know pretty much about the lighting district. And so I went to that Northbrook picnic this weekend or so. So we talked about that, how to bring in the lighting district. It's a big project, and it is a cooperation with each landowners. It's a complex problem, but we will talking to them. It's very, very important. There should be a lot of lighting around that area, like Northbrook, Niagara, especially the Niagara Street.
Yeah, that's not where I live. That's not the walkway I'm talking about. But
yeah, but around that, a lot of areas where this needed to be is a very important thing that we need to address.
Okay, who owns that walkway?
I looked it up on CAGIS, which is the Hamilton County site that shows property lines. Obviously, you'd need to get it surveyed to be exact, but it shows that the person who owned, there's a 10-foot wide, 250.5-foot long easement there, and the same person who owns the cul-de-sac is the same person who owns the walkway, and I believe that to be Colerain Township, although I have not gone to the recorder's office to see how it's recorded. So I believe that is ours, but that might not be the exact name on it.
Okay, then why isn't Colerain Township cleaning it up?
Didn't you say we just went out there and trimmed, or am I crazy?
You must be crazy.
When I was over there.
There's a Matt somebody that has come down and he's trimmed it and stuff, but as far as the trash, there's still needles laying there. There's still...
If you see a needle, please, God, call us right away. 321 cops. Don't hesitate.
I've done that several times, and they just don't come. One
next
time,
then, and I'll make sure.
One time I called him because the walkway was it was like 2 a.m, and I had called him because the walkway was getting extremely busy down there.
When I went down there, it had just been cut or trimmed or something.
Yeah,
You're saying Matt did that?
Matt did it, yeah.
Teetsort, is that who we're talking about?
Yeah.
While we're on the same page, Benita, well, I got your attention too. Matt's got there's a group called Greater Northbrook that's doing wonderful things in that area, and he's starting a group, a Greater Groesbeck. Definitely network and get involved. I mean, you guys have to know Matt. I assume he lives back there with you. He's doing a great job of connecting the dots as well. So, just food for thought.
Trustee Insko, we also sent a crew down to clean all the brush.
When was that? Sorry, I don't mean to put you on the spot. Late June. Did you see anybody down there in late June? Twice since spring. Okay.
A lot of the growth actually is the neighbors, honeysuckle and things that.
But if they come over the fence, you're allowed to go ahead and cut that down. And mainly what I'm worried about is, like I said, the needles, the pop bottles, the drug.
Please call us the second you see anything like that. Please.
They don't do nothing.
I'll do it then. You call me then. We'll make it happen. I promise.
I'll email you.
Oh, that's fine.
Okay.
I don't know your actual phone number. Okay, another thing I wanted to know is, and I'm sorry I'm going over the time. Chief Denny, I had a meeting with him like 3 months ago, and there was an officer, and this is just been driving me nuts ever since. There was an officer that used to sit at our street on Royal Heights and Barthas, and he would just sit there and talk to this girl that was in this house. Okay, Chief Denny claims it was a relative, but they're an awfully close family. Now, he said he did address it, and the officer is no longer on that shift, and he's no longer doing that, which is fine. But I said, why was that officer sitting there wasting 45 minutes to an hour talking to this girl at this house when he could have been driving around our neighborhood? His response was the officer wasn't wasting time. I want to know what the officer was doing if he was not wasting time talking.
Like either an investigative or a personnel issue that should be handled offline. Please take that up with Mark. I don't know if there's a relationship there, but that would be a personnel issue. That's probably not good fodder for this part of the meeting.
Okay. Well, like I said, I know that the officer's no longer there, but he could have drove around. It just makes me wonder how many other officers in Colerain Township are doing this. And they're not wasting time, right?
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Oh, can I get a copy of the contract for that road work back there?
It's online if you want to go to our website. You can print it or read it online.
Okay. Okay. And
Thank
you'll
you.
give me a copy of the...
Okay, thank you. Dave Oberek.
Hey, Dave. How you
Hi,
doing?
Dave.
Nice to put a name to the face.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I'm here to talk about an issue. It's been going on since started in May. I've contacted people here since June. In front of my house, there's a storm sewer drain line broken down in the street, well out in the right of way. I've been told a number of times that's my responsibility to dig up the road and repair that, and I just don't understand. It's not on my property.
Dave, you've contacted all three of us individually. I came out and met with you. I went down to I know who to call down at MSD. I actually obtained a drawing of the street when it was laid out, and it looks like it was built in 1951, and it's very unique for 1951 that they had actually separated the sanitary and the storm, and there is a separate storm line there that was installed when the street was put in. You know, back in that day, they ran everything into the sanitary. The sanitaries would overflow when there was a big rainstorm. And so whoever built that street was thinking way, way ahead. Because nowadays, MSD, and the reason your water and sewer bills are so high is because MSD is forced into a court-ordered position of separating all that storm and sanitary. Your street is ahead of the curve on that. I don't know what the thinking was in 1951. You were born then. I obviously was not. That was a shock. And I have talked to people at the county, and I have talked to folks at the township, and it is my belief that the section of the lateral that is in the right of way, and it's not at the edge of the right of way or under your front yard, it is out in the middle of the westbound drive lane. It's my belief that that is the responsibility of the township to fix that. We can sit here and the township's going to take this argument to the county over who is collecting public works and stormwater fees and where they go. But I have put a lot of time into looking into this, and which you well know because we've been communicating. And I believe that from the storm main to the right of way, that section of pipe, I believe that is not yours to maintain. we don't care to have you out digging in the street to fix it. The paving crew is coming down the street in the next couple weeks. And, you know, one of your options is to not fix it, and then we're gonna have a leaky pipe under the road. And we don't want that, because then 4 or 5 years from now, we have a pothole. So I'm gonna take comments from the other trustees, but in my mind, the township should take responsibility for it from the storm main out to the edge of the right-of-way. If there's a problem beyond that, that is your issue to deal with. But the section that's in the right-of-way, I believe that is our responsibility to maintain. So I don't know if the other trustees have a comment.
I'll make a comment. Actually, I went to see that spot that you were talking about, and you showed me the pictures. It seems it's right in the middle of the road. Last week, I got a call from the county commissioner, Chris Manzel. Then sometimes 25 years ago, that county used to take care of it. Somehow, now the county pulled out the agreement how to fix it, who to fix it. The way it looks, that the sewage you're talking about, it's right in the middle of the road. It's not in our property.
True.
My argument is, right now, when I'm looking at the road construction people are putting a new drainage in other side. Where you have a problem, they're gonna put another new drainage. For them, it's easy to connect, you know, to that sewage, and what other problem is creating your property. You know, they can do that, because I saw that how deep that they were putting the drainage, and we're driving towards Memory Lane in the right side. Okay, now they had to do the same thing in the opposite, which is right would be connecting. It's a simple process. I don't know how much they are asking to pay you. That's unreasonable. It's not your responsibilities.
Well, they quoted me $9,000. Just don't have that laying around to do street repairs.
I think we should pressure that the road construction people too. Is I don't know, he's the expert. He'd probably give you more detail how to handle this.
Did you have a comment, Greg?
Jeff, you wanted to say something first? Or it looked like you were chiming in. No?
No, I would just say that I completely understand and sympathize, and I get it. We reached out to Hamilton County Stormwater District, and they said it's a private pipe, and it's been the township's policy that we don't use public dollars to improve private infrastructure. So I just wanted to share that with you.
I appreciate that, Jeff, and there's no lack of sympathy. And first of all, let me acknowledge Raj and Dan for grabbing this by the horns, because I really appreciate you guys stepping up and going the extra mile for our residents, because that's what it's all about. But for me, this particular issue is, I tried to make it a little more cut and dry. If we weren't doing construction on your road, true or false, would we be having a problem right now?
This happened independent of all that work. I had stormwater backing up in an outside stairwell, going and then running into the house through the basement door. And that happened probably mid-May twice when we had huge downpours. And that's when it was discovered. I had Herman Services come out, and they ran an auger through there and said they were getting clumps of mud back.
And when did the road construction start? It was a little bit before that, wasn't it?
Well, it was up on Acre. They've been up on Acre for a long time. They haven't been down to our side, I want to say 6 weeks ago, maybe.
Off the top of your head, do you know how many of your neighbors are affected by this, just as you are?
I have the drawing, and the drawing that I obtained from MSD. He appears to be the last guy on the line.
Really?
The break is clearly in the right of way. It's not close to the property line. It is 5 feet inside. It's under our street.
If so from my standpoint, for me, the simple answer was, who's the catalyst for this? And if the township is the catalyst for this problem, well, then we need to step up. And I'm assuming, had all this construction not began, we wouldn't be having this conversation. So
regardless of the construction, the pipe is clearly broken under the street. And I don't know this man. I've gone out and looked at his problem. He's called me. I'm guessing he's called each one of us, and I would like to direct our township to maintain the section of it that's in the right-of-way. If there's problems beyond the right-of-way, those are yours to maintain. But I guess you paid Herman something to come out and run a camera. I know that's not cheap.
Yeah.
And in my mind, it's not even close to the edge of the road. It's out in the middle of the road. And because of the urgency of this, because Neiman's coming down the road, and I would guess in the next couple, because they're experiencing the same thing the Royal Heights subdivision is. If anybody, you folks on Burnside have been a little quieter, but I mean, that whole street, if this doesn't get fixed before the paving, we're gonna be out digging up a brand-new street, and if it doesn't ever get fixed, and you just say, I'm not gonna fix it, we're gonna have a sinkhole out in front of your house, and I did.
And then
look-
ultimately, the township pays for it anyway.
I did look it up, and I think you moved into that house in April of '77. I mean, you've been there 41 years, quietly living there, paying your taxes, doing whatever you're supposed to do, and I'm gonna ask our administration to take responsibility for the section of the pipe that's clearly out in the right-of-way. And I don't know if I need a motion for that, or...
Before you make that motion, if we do make a motion on that, Jeff, can you comment on what the time frame or the deadline is to make a decision? Because it sounds to me like it's getting close. Do we have a day, a week, a month, a year?
You're into just weeks.
Weeks,
Because,
okay, so...
Because we've got the paving crews are going to be coming through, just like we were talking about
So,
down Burnside.
Potentially, Dan, with all due respect, could we maybe table your motion if you were going to make one to another meeting so we can get more?
Actually, have you gone over and looked at it?
I haven't looked at
I
it. We
know
just
that
talked on the phone.
I know the gas
2
main,
days ago.
I think they've got all the gas main house connections hooked up. I know they were dropping some catch basins in. I don't know if they're on time or not. I know the days of rain throw things off. I think this is a rather
So you're-
immediate thing that
okay.
needs to get done
So
now,
you're-
because if you hold up that construction crew and they don't get to their next street,
Gotcha.
and we get into some bad weather.
So you've
you know,
seen
a couple
enough,
weeks
you're
from
prepared
now.
to vote right now?
I'm prepared to make a
Raj, are you
motion that.
prepared to vote right now?
Because the way I see the construction's going on and the timing, this is what they can dig out, repair whatever it happens, because if you table the motion, it's going to take long, because just about we're talking about the neighborhood improvement. This is one of the main improvement. We need that neighborhood. I drove the street, it's unbelievable. We need to get it done faster. It's the children, the dust coming up, that a lot of children live on the street. It's like a pretty bad to drive, all the cars going by, blowing. I think tabling this motion is going to take a long time to.
So let me help understand this there. It sounds like Dan is ready to vote on it. Sounds like Raj is ready to vote on it. I'm not, just because I haven't been out there. It's not that I'm not in favor of it. I just haven't been out there. So if you want to make a motion, sounds to me like we have 2/3 to make a.
I would motion that the township takes responsibility for the section of pipe that is clearly in the right-of-way from the main that was put in with public dollars, that is maintained all the way up to today with public dollars, and that we would take responsibility to the right-of-way. If there's a problem beyond the right-of-way, that is your responsibility. And it sounds like you've taken responsibility for it.
Yeah, which I appreciate that.
You paid for the investigation of it. So do I have a second?
I second.
So it's been motioned and seconded. Is there any other discussion?
I think Kevin will work with the people working on the road, the construction people, how they can feasibly, with the reduced cost, they can take care of this problem.
Yeah, we'll just direct the contractor to install the storm line.
The replacement section of pipe.
Just real quick while we're having this discussion, Jeff, we're not opening any kind of can of worms here because he's the last one on that line. Am I understanding that correctly?
According to the drawing that I've obtained from MSD, the houses to the west of him are at the wrong elevation. There's no drawing on those. There's no lines on that drawing.
Okay. Again, while I'm at it, just to be clear, it's not that I'm against it or anything like that. I just haven't been out to see it. So I'm obviously in favor of helping a neighbor when we can. It sounds like they've got everything we need.
We're not helping a neighbor.
Well,
we're fixing our problem in the street.
But it sounds to me like they're confident enough in their vote that we can make this vote. And because of that, and I'll just say I'll be a no vote just because I haven't seen it. It's not that I'm necessarily against it. I just would have liked tonight. Can you get me out of here in like 10?
Is there any
So
other?
don't take it personal.
Is there any other discussion?
None.
Hearing none, Heather, please call for a vote.
Mr. Insco?
Nay.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye, and the township is directed to fix the pipe in the right-of-way and not beyond the right-of-way.
Please,
Thank
no
you-
hard feelings
thank
on
you,
that. I
David.
just hadn't seen it.
Then I would encourage you to get out and
Yes,
look at it.
for sure.
Thank you very much.
Greg asked to bring photos, whatever.
I guess we don't need them now because you got
Well, you can please
you
give
got two
those to
trustees
Greg.
better than me.
Okay.
Thank you.
For
being here. Thank you.
And then our next speaker is Donnie Kelly.
All right. Government in action. You gotta love that. How you doing, Donnie?
Hi. Thank you, trustees. Thanks for slipping me in and everybody. This is a tough job you've got here.
Not at all.
Yeah. Well, hey, I've got myself in a little bit of a pickle. My name's Donnie Kelly. I'm a resident of Colerain Township, and I teach construction technology at Northwest High School, and I have Colerain students and Northwest High School students. So we decided to build a castle, and Mr. Unger's been out to see it as our ticket booth. And this castle kind of grew and grew on us, and it suddenly occurred to us that we probably should have gotten a permit for the castle. So what I am asking for now is to see if the trustees would be comfortable granting a variance, possibly tonight, so that I can expedite the completion of this castle. What's happened to me right now is I cannot get my building permit pulled without first having my zoning permit.
I know that. I don't think we can give a variance. I think you need to go to our zoning board. Is that correct?
Board of Zoning Appeals
It's got to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals.
for a variance. If it's a variance that you need, but I would.
What else can I?
Yeah, I would
Is there
start
any
with
other workaround?
I would start with Jenna and submit it. First, you submit a zoning permit application, and then she takes a look and sees if it aligns with our zoning code. And then if it doesn't, then she has to deny it because that's her job, is to enforce the law. And
That's
then,
where I'm at now.
Yep. Okay. And then it'll go to the Board of Zoning Appeals. There's an appeal process that there's no other way to go. It's got to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals, and then they'll make the final determination.
And that, yeah, I can understand there's some due process there, but I have seen the trustees do spot approvals on other things in the past, haven't I?
No, that's illegal. Yeah.
The trustees make legislative decisions such as a zone change.
Yeah.
But if you want a variance, that's administrative, that would go through has to go through the Board of Zoning Appeals.
I understand that. Okay. Well, I'll.
Thanks, Larry.
Have you submitted a zoning application?
I have, yeah. Would the trustees consider waiving the fees and whatnot for the zoning application?
The fee was what, $45 or something like that? Is this, Jenna, do you know what the fee is off the top of your head?
If it's an accessory structure, it was 35, but they're not it's not necessarily residential. I haven't seen the application, so I don't have any.
Can you follow up with Jenna? I don't think we can legally do what you're asking.
I understand, thank you. Okay.
So, and if we would, then it could be contested, and then.
No, we don't want that.
Problem than where we
Yeah,
started, so.
thanks.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
yeah, but please give Jenna your phone number so she can follow up with you.
Actually, I believe Mr. Kelly emailed the four of us.
I did, yeah, I emailed all the trustees
To
and.
Mrs. LeCount after the meeting.
I want to be there for the ribbon cutting when you get it done.
And that was
Okay.
quite a few months ago that I stopped out there.
Oh, it was, yeah.
And I didn't know if you'd ever done anything else with it or not.
Yeah, I had plans drawn up and submitted.
Okay, so you went ahead and got an architect to draw
That's all
plans?
done. Yeah.
Okay.
And they have it, but I guess you haven't seen it, so. All right,
Okay, thank you. I've got Rich wanted to speak at the end of the meeting. Keith Miller or Mike Parsons, did you want to speak now or at the end of the meeting? And Mike wanted to wait till the end, or? Well, we're going to put you at you already spoke, we're going to put you at the end of the meeting also.
I didn't read the agenda.
That's okay.
Actually, I'll make it quick. I'm not going to really put it up against it all tonight somewhat, but, I will touch on concerns about the diminishing individual home ownership in the township. I mean, that's clearly evident. I mean, we sit here and pat ourselves on the back about this rib joint coming in, this chicken joint. It all means nothing without individual home ownership. And I've watched the sunset on that in my neighborhood. I mean, we've turned into just a corporate subsidized wheel. You know, we get Vined and Northbrook Real Estate Organization. God knows who they are, how many real estates they hold. You know, they come in, they got them back to back, side door. They said they might be a reputable organization. I mean, I'm not here to slam them, but I'm just addressing the whole notion in general that the complexion in the township, and I'm talking about property versus rental, is just down the tubes. There's no future here. And then when you can't even sit in your living room and enjoy a peaceful whiff of air, you know, not to hammer on our good buddy on the hill, but, you know, when we all look around and wonder why all of a sudden we have nothing here. I mean, you know, it's just the way it is in America. You know, the corporations have come in, and I'm thankful I live in a period of time where I still have a little semblance of home ownership. But it's gone. It's gone. And to sit here and to lament the loss of it, I don't know what good that does. And maybe everybody's blinders are on and they don't see it. You know, come and live on some of the quote-unquote depressed areas of town, and you'll see just how there is a lack of home ownership. And that just contributes to the whole degenerative spiral. When you don't have any owner consideration in the real estate and everything else, you have nothing. You know, by the grace of God, I have 3 decent renters around me right now. But you know why? Because the real estate owners don't take vouchers. Well, that's a rarity, let me tell you. And I don't know that we'd ever get the numbers across the township, how many of these rental real estate pieces are taking vouchers, but there's your trouble right there. Nobody has any regard for the real estate. But leave that alone. That's another whole issue. And I just want to touch on something quick here. Here we got another approach to the bench for a gate, you know. A few short years ago, we heard some grandiose plan for a gate somewhere on one of these parks to the tune of $40,000. I mean, you talk about a boondoggle. I mean, here you have a street. We want neighborhood empowerment. You know, turn these people loose with a chain, a lock, maybe run the road crew out there to sink a couple poles in it and bore some holes in it, and you got your gate. You know, and if we don't have the money for the chain and the lock, run up to Lowe's. They give that stuff away to everybody that comes in the door.
You work at Lowe's?
Yeah, well, you know, we don't need to all go there. I'm telling you, you can get it for free. You know, but, you know, they're really community oriented that way.
Oh, I know
they'll
they
put
are.
your gate in
They're
for
good.
you almost.
They're good.
Really, I'm not plugging them. I sat here a couple years ago.
I was kidding with you, Mike.
Yeah, I understand. But I just heard where we tried to appropriate $40,000 for a gate, and it was
A long
ludicrous.
time ago.
Ludicrous. I understand. But here we have a cry for a gate to block these people off. You keep this going out. You know, give them their chain, their lock, and a fistful of keys, and see what happens. No big deal.
I appreciate that citizen stepping forward.
Around real quick. You know, keep it light. You know, the police department. Hey, you know what you tell them? You know, you got your man sitting down on the corner flirting a little bit and talking to the girl. Well, how else do you get neighborhood information? You know, that's called intelligence gathering. That's how, you know, and maybe not. Hey, guy's down there having a good time. I'm not going to fault him for it, but, you know, put the good public relations spin on it, you know?
Thanks, Mike.
Wait a minute, I ain't done yet. I want to jump over here. You know, if we're going to bring it out that I'm up there hovering around Lowe's, maybe I might ask Mr. Schwartzoff here for a favor. Can we run the street sweeper up there down Drywoods? I mean, you know, we're all up there kind of hoity-toity. We got the yacht club. We got everybody going in and out. We got the golfers coming up and down. Why don't we spiff up Dry Ridge Road a little bit? You know, coming on in. You know, Rumpke comes down and runs that street sweeper and blows right down there, but he shuts the brush off as soon as he hits Dry Ridge. And I'm not saying that it's his residue accumulating down there, but take a casual drive up there maybe the next day or two and take a look at that. And if you need some help, I'll come out with a scraper. I'll definitely help you out, you know, but I think it'd go a long way. I've had some people come in and say, oh, man, that's looking kind of tacky out there, you know, and it's putting it on me. Hey, you know what? I think we could use a little help with the street sweep.
Okay.
Oh, is it county road? Oh, hey, pardon me. You know, I'll get the county on the phone. I'm not bashful. Yeah, hey, pardon me. Shame. You know. Well, don't stir me up on that. That's another whole
Get
issue.
his canary.
And I don't know. I ain't gonna let the day go without bringing up the motel. You know, I thought they were going to speak on their behalf tonight, but maybe somebody patted them so good that they just decided to go away. You know. I hope so. You know, I found out here last meeting that the property's valuated at about over $500,000, yet we're going to strong-arm this woman, and would you threaten her with coming in with a nuisance issue on that? Two suits come in, tried to negotiate a friendly deal with the woman that had the land lease on it, and nah, she wouldn't have anything to do with that. So next thing you know, we get all kind of backdoor deal in here. We hear that we got Duke in here forcing them into making an offer on this. Well, we hear about it such a grandiose offer at about 400 plus, when in reality the property's valued at 550. So right away we're going to lowball the you know, you probably, you know, hey, I can't say, but why would the deed holder all of a sudden acquiesce and say, yeah, I'll take the money? Had to be under threat, just had to be. Because she was comfortable with taking her land contract money, and then all of a sudden more money comes along. Well, wait a minute. If I'm the deed holder, why would I take $400,000, $150,000 less than the valuation of the property? There must have been coercion. And that's not to say anything about the coercion with Duke. You know, was that the tops that Duke would go? They say, hey, we're only going to play this much with your land deal. And I'll tell you what, I'll speculate right here. Someone down the line is in the till to get really unjustly enriched out of this deal. I just smell it. I just smell it. You know what? Duke don't park bucket trucks. They don't roll wheels up against Colerain Avenue. You know what? There is a motherlode of financial wealth in that frontage out there. Now, how many of us are involved in a backdoor frontage deal involved in this? Huh?
I'll be the first to say I'm not. I mean, I don't know about you, Drew. I don't know.
My language in here would dictate different, but we'll leave that at that. Let me ask you this. Are these two women going to get their just enrichment out of their property?
Whatever they work out is what they're going to work out, and it's between.
Well, here, wait a minute. It was a month ago. Everybody's sitting here playing dumb. We didn't even know there was a land contract woman
Mike,
involved.
the lady who, Sandy didn't know she had a land contract.
Who?
The lady who came up here, I said, do you have it? And she said, no.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? The hotel owner?
Yeah, the lady, Sandy White. Who,
No, yeah, the one with the land contract.
She didn't know she had it that night.
No, she's well
I asked her
fortified.
during-
I understand she's, you know, sued
that's
herself with
that-
attorneys and everything else. And I'll tell you what, my offer still stands for her GoFundMe page. Really, you know what? If she's going to sell and you're going to wipe out the motel and all that, that's all well and good. But by God, give her money. Give her 20% over the valuation. You know,
I'm
just
sure-
give them some money. Make everybody happy.
I'm sure she'll work it out with the deed holder.
Well, I
That's
hope so.
between her
I got
and the
my eye
deed
on
holder.
it. I got my eye on it. I didn't like the way it went down here.
Thank you, Mike.
Very sneaky. Very sneaky.
Thank you, Mike.
There might have been something else, but hey, I might be up against it.
Okay, take your time. Take your time.
That's the time. Thank you very much. Okay, and those were the speakers that I had cards for, and then I've got two that are going to speak towards the end of the meeting. So we'll move into the next part of the meeting, Jeff, which would be administrative reports.
Very good. Thank you, Trustee Unger. We'll begin our administrative reports with the Fire Department and Chief Cook.
Emergency incident activity for July of this year. There's a total of 745 EMS incidents. 602 of those incidents were dispatched as advanced life support. 143 were basic life support. There are 148 fire incidents and 25 responses into the contract area of Springfield Township. On July the 7th, Sunday, there was a significant building fire in the 2600 block of Royal Glen Drive. And the reported fire loss approximation for the month was $24,721. That's all I have.
Thank you, Frank. I had a request from a citizen that Mark's report and Frank's report, if we could, the report that you read at this meeting, if we could somehow put that on the website. Go ahead, Mark.
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you.
Police report for July, overall the crime rate was down 15%. They responded to 4,086 calls for service, 202 vehicle crashes, 17 of those were with injuries, 38 hit skips, 348 investigative traffic stops, 224 traffic citations, 13 OVI arrests, 189 false alarm calls. 65% of all calls were responded to within 5 minutes, and that goes up again from last month. 234 arrests, 32 new cases assigned to our criminal investigative unit, and 9 detective callouts. We received word we're going to receive the 25-year award from Ohio Dare as one of the few agencies that has committed themselves to that program for the last 25 years, so we're proud of that. And Officer Brian Huntington received a letter from Hamilton County Common Pleas Court Judge Steve Martin. This is the 6th officer in the last 3 months we've gotten these letters from, commending him on his professionalism and quality of work. So we're proud of them. When the judges take time to write a letter, it must mean something. So that's all we have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Good. Ms. LeCount, Planning and Zoning?
Just a quick code enforcement update for you. In July, we received a total of 185 complaints into the code enforcement department. That's bringing us to a total of just over 1,100 total complaints so far this year. Just for a point of reference, we actually handled 1,400 total complaints in 2017, so we're already at about 80% of what we did last year.
What do you attribute that to, just off the top of your head?
CSR. Being able to handle this a little more effectively, weeding out duplicate complaints and making sure that we're running all of the complaints through the process.
And
additionally, our ability to more quickly manage tall grass and weeds with our seasonal code enforcement. That was actually going to be the next number that I...
And real quick, you can attribute next year, it'll be even less, right? Because...
You think next year? I don't know that it'll be less next year, because I think we're actually on pace to be higher total than last year.
Okay.
But I do think that as we start getting through housing court more effectively, that we'll start seeing some of those bigger problem properties, the more reoccurring type of properties, start to decline. We have quite a few of them, so we are working our way through that, but I can jump right down to that for housing court. Last year, in 2017, we sent 52 cases through housing court. Already in 2018, just over halfway through the year, we have 59 that have been referred to housing court. So we are definitely increasing those numbers, and hopefully we'll see that start to steady out over the coming years, rather than continuing to see some of these issues on some of the problem properties.
Yeah, two of the residents, Sharon and Benita, it looks like they left, but I wish they were kind of hearing this right now, because I want residents to understand the law is the law. If you want to change it, there's a higher form of government, I guess, that can do that. But we are prosecuting these things as quick as we can, as fast as humanly possible, at the highest level. I mean, Jeff and I were talking the other day. I mean, a capias for something as simple as not mowing your lawn. That's pretty serious. I don't know what more you can ask from a township. Unless you know of something, please inform me.
And we're following up on those KPI. I'm not sure what the plural is.
Forgive me.
But we're following up on those as well. So when one is issued, we're actually following up to make sure that if they are issued another court date, we are at that court date. We are showing up and making sure that we get we're looking for compliance. So that's
obviously
what we're looking for. The only other thing that I really wanted to report to you this evening had to do with vacant properties. We have, with our planner on staff, Jesse, we've been focused very heavily on vacant properties and chasing down owners of vacant buildings and trying to get those onto our registry. Let's see, total 2017 we had 99 reported vacants. And already this year we've had 157 reported vacants. Our seasonal code enforcement officer is also helping to boost those numbers a bit. So we will start to see the revenues from that registry increase.
Do you see a need to keep him on longer than seasonal, or at least past the season, the quote-unquote busy season?
I don't know that I can answer that question right now.
Okay, fair enough.
I'd like to kind of look at the numbers.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm all about code enforcement. I mean, it's, again, broken window syndrome, so.
I can get back to you on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Mr. Schwartzoff, Public Services.
Thank you, Jeff. I have just a few items tonight. This Saturday is our paddle from Heritage Park to Dravo Park. It's sponsored by Rivers Unlimited, and we have 24 people registered for that event. Starting a few weeks back, we started doing bi-weekly skip reports. They're status reports that you can find online or through Circle, and it'll tell the residents, whomever's interested, what's happened the past 2 weeks and what the next 2 weeks, what is upcoming on Rural Heights and Acre, Gardenia, and Burnside. We did meet this week with Dan Bolden, the transportation director for Northwest Schools, to talk about Rural Heights and getting the buses through there. There's going to be some problems that we think by keeping communications open with him and the contractor, we can mediate most of those troubles The project is a year-long project, so it's not going to go away. We'll do the best we can to help it through. Our 2018 paving program, the curbs, the gutters are installed. The base course is down on all the streets. We're hoping to do a final walkthrough and punch list probably sometime early September. Then our 18 program will be finished. I gave the trustees up on the dais a thing about the Eyes of Freedom coming up on September 6th through 9th. The Eyes of Freedom is a Lima Company memorial. It honors the service and sacrifice of all who answer our nation's call then, now, and tomorrow. It's a traveling memorial. It'll be at Drew Campbell Memorial Commons beginning Thursday, September 5th. On that day at 10 a.m., we're having an opening ceremony, so everybody's welcome to come to that, and it'll go on through Sunday. Streetsweeper update, we've swept routes 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6, so we have 3 left. Sometimes when we're not sweeping roads, we're actually out milling streets. We grind and patch, and we do that. We use our street sweeper to suck up the excess asphalt. So it's used for other things above beyond just sweeping the streets. And we have begun installing new township entry signs. I think we have 6 up so far. We'll continue that.
That's great.
Thank you. And continue that, into the fall, and hopefully get them all completed.
Get that one over on by where Old Providence Hospital used to be.
Sure they did.
I'll be checking it.
Maybe they didn't.
On that note,
They really look great.
I think
That's
they
a
did.
real nice change. Thanks for getting that done. It really gives the township a different entrance.
if I can piggyback off of that, some of the signs, the new signs, Jeff and I think Jesse designed, and banners too, look amazing. But if anyone has a fade it sign in their neighborhood, whether it's a stop sign or a address or whatever it is, or even if it's spray painted or vandalized or bent or broken or something like that, I was nice enough to hand Kevin a list of like 9 of them, and then Jeff was nice enough to tell me to put it into the CSR, which he did for me. So long story short, if you have those issues in your neighborhood, or if you see one, take a few extra seconds and put it in the system so we can get it fixed. Because there's a lot of miles of road in this community. It's hard to get every one of them and see both sides of a sign when you're driving by it 45 mile an hour back in Royal Heights. Not that anybody does that. But real quick, I'm sorry if I missed this, if you said this. Did you have a date on the primitive camp day that we've been talking about?
Primitive camp date, we are going to have to put off, I think, till next year. There's a lot of planning involved, more than, we're not a recreation department, so all these programs.
I know I flood you with stuff.
Yeah, are sort of me. So we'll get it done for next year. Just going to take some more planning that we weren't prepared to do for this year. We did get the canoeing thing in. We had a partner for that. Camping probably not going to have a partner, so it's going to be upon us to try to plan that for next year and go through all the health department regulations and different things that we weren't aware of when we first started talking about it.
Did we always have those regulations in the past when we did it at the park with the kids? Or was this
I'm
just...
sure there were regulations.
Didn't follow them or didn't know about them or something along
Didn't
those
know
lines?
about them.
Okay, well, that's good to know, I
Get
guess.
a little bit different because you were there with the program was there with the children overseeing it, where this is allowing people into the park without any supervision per se.
I was under the assumption that we would have part-time seasonal employees like them that would take charge of that, so that way you didn't have to worry about, is there an issue with that? You grabbing your mic like I...
Probably want to review our collective bargaining agreement on how we use our seasonal employees.
Okay. That would be part of that? Okay. Well, that's obviously disappointing from my standpoint. I'll go out on a higher note, though, and I'll say, I was watching the news the other day. I shared this with Jeff. I don't know if I shared it with you, Kevin, but if you ever seen a sunflower fields, it's an inexpensive thing, and there was one at Deerfield Township that was just absolutely beautiful, and it's drawing people in from all over the country, and I thought, you know what? We've got the land. We've got parks that we could, that would suffice. So if you identify an area in a park that you think would be good, maybe you know how the farm used to be at Work Park behind like the shed right there, who knows where, but I think a sunflower seed field or sunflower field would be awesome. I mean, that's a great way to bring people into some of our underutilized parks, and it's just beautiful. You know, this time of year, go to one. It just there's something just fun and happy about it. So I'll leave it at that. We'll work on that next year too.
Thank you for your report, Kevin. Jeff?
Very good. Assistant Administrator Jeff Weckbach.
So my report's short, sweet, but assuming that we get through tonight and approve the strategic plan as it is adopted, what we plan on doing as administration is sending out a survey to residents to provide us feedback on the details in the plan so that as we move forward to our strategy for 2019 and the budget, we can incorporate some of those ideas, get that information to the trustees so that when we are actually building a budget for 19, it will incorporate our plan and also, you know, whatever else may be out there. And so if we need to make tweaks to our plan, that would be a good avenue for us to get some of that feedback and we like to say that if you don't take your budget and use it as your document for your priorities, you could miss the mark, so.
Can I just ask, I was just gonna say, did you use the term bribe us feedback? Bribing?
Provide, sorry.
Okay, I
I
thought I heard
must have said
bribe. I
that
thought,
quick.
man, I don't have any trouble getting
Sorry.
feedback. I don't have to bribe for it. That's
No,
for
no, provide feedback.
Provide feedback, thank you. Sorry, Raj.
I think that's a great idea. Send the survey to the citizens, the residents. The feedback is important, and you can see their expectations, what they want for the township. And we incorporate, that's the same thing Rich talked about this, the vision, what the people like to see in the 5-year, the planning. I don't know if they ever done that before.
I was just going to say that, Raj. So we used to do a township newsletter before we, the website and everything took over and Circle and all that fun stuff. And I know the reason why we stopped because it was so expensive. But if we're going to be doing this anyway, this study or survey or whatever you're saying, where we're bribing for feedback, why not make it a township newsletter since we're already going to be paying that postage anyway? I mean, I'm sure we could find something to put on the back of a...
So the intent is for it to be online.
Okay.
And for those who are less digitally inclined, we are going to have some copies at the front desk of the administrative building. So
How
if
can we
people want-
solicit those that are less digitally inclined?
Well, hopefully they're watching today, and through your all circuits, you can encourage people to either stop by or give us a call, and we'll try to provide avenues for individuals who don't have access to a computer.
Do you know of a way to do targeted marketing? For example, I mean, the reality is we know of certain retirement communities that are obviously probably going to be less digitally inclined, condo communities as well, that we could do a selective mailing if we had to reach the people that we think would be the hardest to reach otherwise.
You could, but
I just
of course
assumed
there's
cast the net
costs
is-
associated with things like that,
course,
and
of
the
course.
timing, and so it may take a week for it to get mailed, and then you've got 2 to 3 weeks before
Get it
people
back.
send it back, and you may be receiving a lot of the comments after we start our budget process. So this is the first run at it, and we're hoping to improve the process in
Live and
future
learn.
years.
Okay.
But we'll see how it goes in year 1.
I can accept that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Very good. Mrs. Randolph in the Finance Department?
Board of Trustees, I'd like to take a minute and provide an update to you tonight on Purchase Order 630-2018, which was made payable to the IRS. So at least 2 of the 3 of you may have seen that when you signed it. That purchase order was failure to make a proper federal tax deposit. It was a penalty for that, which was a result of the first January tax payment of 2018 being paid 23 days late. The former employee acknowledged this mistake as an oversight, and payment was submitted immediately upon me notifying her at the end of January. Practices are in place so that I can verify prior to the bank reconciliation process. That's when I found it, that the required payments are made within the time frame. The notice was dated July 16th, so we didn't know that such a penalty was even out there until they probably audited their books and realized that. We received it on July 18th. I did make payment to prevent any future fees or interest being paid, and also within that same week, we filed an appeal. So I'm waiting right now on a response from the IRS. I have not received anything to date that
What's your confidence level on the appeal and
This is
recouping that penalty?
the first time since I've been here of April 2012 that such a penalty has existed. So I'm pretty confident that we may be able to retrieve that back.
Thank you for that. And real quick, also, if you said this, I missed it. How much was the penalty?
It was $7,405.
Yeah, I don't think you said that then, did you?
No, I don't think I did either.
That's all right. That's all right. I appreciate you being proactive and trying to recoup that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I apologize if that error happened.
Not your fault.
And that employee is no longer here, and the, I've read through the thing on that, and I'm confident that that money's heading back our way. I think it's called Form 843.
Yes.
So thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Very good. Well, trustees, I'm really excited to get into the business of tonight's agenda. There's a lot here. It's the result of an incredible amount of work on the part of our leadership team and folks that work for the township. I really am starting to feel like we're striking out in a new direction, and this strategic plan really is the roadmap for where we're headed. It's intended to be a communication device to residents, to let you guys know what we're doing and what the focus and priorities are. It's intended to be a management document for ourselves, so that we can, it's kind of a chaotic world in town hall here. There's lots of folks that call, and they've got issues that need to be resolved immediately, and it's easy to lose sight of what's important in that sort of milieu. So this document is going to be very important for us to keep our eyes on the prize and to keep our focus. As Jeff mentioned, and as it came up in the conversation, this is the beginning, and we're really excited about reaching out to residents to help set priorities for next year. I mean, we're in August. 2019 is on my mind heavy, and so we're going to be starting to work through the budgetary process, and we want to make sure that we have what the residents have in mind. We want to make sure that those priorities are our priorities. And so please do, when you get that circle notification that says, we want to hear from you, please know that we do want to hear from you, and please give us that feedback. On a not as positive note, I learned this month that the board of trustees, maybe, for Kissel Park Condominium Association has voted to not grant us a construction easement on Joseph Road. And so what that means is that the sidewalk project that we've been working on for 10 years or so is dead, because we cannot construct that, and that's very frustrating for me, because the project is for school kids to walk safely to high school. But there are things that you can control and things that you can't. This is one of those things you can't control. Undeterred, we have a great deal of time spent studying sidewalk and connectivity with assets, and we will be moving forward with a new section of sidewalk here in the next couple of months. So I just wanted to share that with you, because it was on my mind, and it was a frustrating part of my mind.
Not to interrupt you, Jeff, I'm so sorry, because I spoke in great length about this last meeting. I do plan on getting with the board members back there. I actually live back there. I'm not one of the board members, but this just blows my mind. I mean, it's such a good, caring group of people. It blew my mind that all it took was one board member with an incredibly skewed survey to 3/4 of the residents back there to get them to scare them into not voting. The crazy thing is, when I talked to the 3 board members, 2 of them are in favor of it, but they wanted to get all 3 of them in favor to vote. And I said, well, that's fine. I respect that. I love when all 3 of us agree, but it doesn't always happen. That's life. I said, sometimes, you just gotta do it. Just go and vote. So I don't want to say, I know you're saying it's dead in the water from your standpoint, but for mine right now, it's far from dead in the water. I'm certainly going to talk to those 2 board members again and tell them, all you got to do is vote. It's that simple. If you 2 are in favor, you outnumber the other one, it's a done deal.
They did vote. My understanding is they did vote.
That's not my understanding as of a week ago after their meeting. But I'll double check and verify that. The reality is their biggest issue is privacy, okay? Now, it's an older community. I have to admit, I do not fit the demographic back there, but their concerns are skateboarders, loitering. I mean, just things that are and there's literally 8 units that face where we're going to take down trees, which Jeff did a wonderful job of reminding them, hey, we will replace your trees, sometimes on a 2-to-1 give and take. It just blows my mind. There's a huge generation gap, and I am not ready to accept the results of one rogue board member that just doesn't care about our kids' safety. I don't know how to say that nicely, or care enough to realize that their privacy, they have blinds on their curtains, if that's really an issue. I mean, the loitering thing. When kids leave school, they don't want to hang out on a sidewalk in front of your condo. They want to go home. They want to get out of there as fast as they can. And I can say I've lived there for 5 years now. I've never seen a skateboarder, ever. Never seen a bicycle. But I've seen a lot of kids walk in the snow and trip and fall and almost hit cars. It's sick. So we'll cross that bridge again. Forgive me for interrupting you, Jeff.
Nope, that's it. Very good.
Thank you, Jeff. The next item is Trustees Report. And I'll go first because mine has always been the shortest one. And then Roger will go second, and then the guy that goes long will be the third guy. Thank you to the residents that invited us out to the Pocket Picnic on Capstan. It was a nice event, and nice food and nice people. I appreciate being invited out there. That's what
I take my wife on a lot of dates, and that was another date, right? Another date night. Trustees getting out and visiting places. As I said earlier, I have all kinds of people call me. My cell phone number is on the township website, and it is 3 or 4 nights a week that I'm out looking at something. Our kids are grown up and moved out, and I have time to do this, and I've met a lot of nice people, and sometimes people just need somebody to talk to get their situation worked out. Last thing is back off of Acre, I believe there's a street Gardenia, and there was an email out that Dan had something to do with the last piece of sidewalk. It's not this Dan, it's other Dan, not Dan, other Dan that works for the township. I just wanted to make sure you and everybody else understood that I did go out and visit
Dan
that
Schulte
place.
is who you're saying.
Right. I wasn't going to bring up his last name.
Well, I love him, so it's all good.
That last house back there on the left, they're very nice people. They've been there a very long time. They've redone part of their driveway and their sidewalk, and they want to redo the other part of their driveway. And I'll tell you this so you know, it's the 2 blocks that are definitely on their side of the right-of-way. And I suggested to them to get it done before the street gets done, because we don't want a concrete truck or real heavy equipment on our brand-new street. I'd rather have it on our really old street that's about to be redone, which is why all that stuff back there needs to get buttoned up before the paving crew comes. So that's my trustee report in a record 75 seconds. Raj, you want to go next?
Sure. Thanks, Dan. Dan is absolutely right. This board, this trustees board, directly involved with the residents, the neighborhood. In the weekends, we got free time. Me and my wife, we drive around and see, hey, look at this. I'm actually very, very proud of our Colerain Township. It's a beautiful township. We gotta keep it beautiful. And the one resident talk about some of the LLC corporation buying these houses, make it like a slum place. It's not going to happen. We're going to go after them. We're going to go after this. That people own the property, they also be responsible to keep the place clean. Last week, again, my neighborhood, you remember my campaign promise, people say, Raj say promise a lot. But I want to keep up my promise, what I say. I said couple months before, or 3-4 months, I'm going to work with ODOT. One of the goal is beautify, clean up the Colerain Avenue. September 1st, with the cooperation with the Cavan initiated the day is a Colerain Avenue, the cleanup. The Colerain public was going to provide all this trucking and everything. He connected with some of the local, our community, the cleanup people. I'm also cooperating with the probation department. Also, keep Cincinnati beautiful. What ODOT is going to do is 5 days project in the night, and that they're going to send the sweeper, sweep the 5 days. They start in the midnight, because they can't do it in the daytime. In the midnight for 5 days, I think August 26th, they will start 26th whole week. September 1st is the actual cleanup, and the Cavan providing all this, the township trucks and sweepers also additionally, and the citizens also. Please, anybody want to volunteer the day, and you're welcome to go. We are meeting at the Toys R Us building, Toys R Us, and then one group will be meeting at the Reagan intersections. So please, bring your family, be a part of this, the cleanup project. I'm also approaching some of the business, get involved. Hopefully they put in that LED light, the Colerain Avenue, the cleanup. Like right now, the Colerain Avenue, a lot of trash in the median and everything. ODOT coming back and bring the sweepers, the 5-day project is going to improve the image of the Colerain Township. And also, I'm a big, my ambition is build up the neighborhood. So what I did last week, I met with the Hamilton County Community HCDC, Hamilton County Development Corporation. A lot of people doesn't know how the city doesn't know how the community development will help. They help you to build the business in the community, and they also help you to find the finance. How they also do as a consultant. And Jeff Mills also talking with them. I met with the president of the Hamilton County Development Corporation and also the vice president of the people. Hopefully, they will come next month to give a presentation. A lot of our cities, a lot of people doesn't know how, they have a lot of ideas to make investment in our community, but they don't know where to start and how to go. They're afraid to go to the bank to ask, but they got all the ideas. And this is the people, they help you to build this. All the projects should be go to the neighborhood. Not only our community will build up. And Jeff also talking with these people, and I think we are going to the right direction. And I'm really excited about that, that the corporation to have a partnership with the Hamilton County Development Corporation. And please tell our family members or friends about HCDC. And also be a part of this September 1st, the project. And also, safety is everybody's concern. A lot of people, every meeting, we hear citizens come on, talk about this safety issue. They're scared. Some of the people are really scared. And, we're talking with the chief, and chief also taking initiative, sending the police officer to neighborhood. They also get down and talk to the people, how they can do it. We'll continue to improve that safety to our neighborhood. And please come here, and any concerns, talk to us. We'll make sure that your concerns are heard. That's all.
Thank you, Raj. Greg?
All right, I'll keep it under an hour. So Raj hit the nail on the head. We're heading in the right direction. I think sometimes the hardest things are the easiest, and the easiest things are the hardest. I don't know why it is, but that's just life for you. If you take a look around, this is our second meeting now where I believe we're at full staff. We're at full staff. You have no idea how huge that is, especially to some of our department heads, because it hasn't been like that. So as we adjust and we start knocking some things out, it's just it's a domino effect. It's happening faster now, so it's a beautiful thing. I appreciate, before I forget while I got you next to me, I give Dan a lot of credence when it comes to anything road related, because that's what he does for them. That's his specialty. It's what he knows. So good job on that, Dan. I appreciate that. Now, one of the things that Raj was hitting on was this Beautification Initiative, in other words, in 2019. And I think that's something we're all very compassionate about, and I cannot wait to absolutely just knock this thing out. If there was ever a time to bring Colerain Avenue in particular into the 21st century, this is going to be it. From bridges to lighting to landscaping to banners to branding to seasonal lighting and decorations to concrete medians, we're going to address it all, and I cannot wait to actually dig in and jump in head first and knock it out. But first, I got to get through the citizens' address and some of the comments and whatnot. So Rich and Mike Parsons had said some things that were kind of along the same lines, so I'm going to kind of address them together. In this strategic plan that we were given, there's an interesting stat in here. 22% are rental, and that blew my mind. So I guess I'm going to throw it back to Jeff and Jeff, who we're going to need nicknames for. 5,000 out of 22,000 residents. What is the room for error? Like, how much error is it? That just seems astronomical to me that 22% of our housing is rental.
Yeah, so I'm not sure where that number came from exactly, but there's a number of ways to get to that. The American Community Survey is a survey that's done by the U.S. Census Bureau.
So independent survey, obviously.
Yeah.
You guys weren't in your office just counting.
Right. There's other ways to get to that number that have varying levels of accuracy. So we could take a look at the number of rental registrations that are on file with the auditor. But anyway, it's a pretty good guess.
Yeah, and I think Heather's alluding to that. That's not foolproof, right?
Right. The 22%.
Yeah.
I look at them periodically, and there's a lot of them that I know they're an apartment building.
Yeah.
So they have to be a rental.
I believe that number came from American Community Survey.
So my point on that number, it seems astronomically high to me. To Mike Parsons' point about people are taking vouchers so often and blah blah blah. Vouchers are a rarity actually. And Laura Dakin, I'm going to put you on the spot here, leader of Northbrook. What was that number? Do you remember what percent it was? It's voucher recipients. Wasn't it like 2%? It was an unbelievable. It was an because we went through. Oh, Lori, you're the numbers. 200 out of 22,000. It was, look, voucher recipients and 2%. That sounds right. Astronomically low compared to the perception and some of the complaints I get. So what does that really mean? The reality is, the faster that property values go up, the faster that we can get property values to go up, which, for the record, property values are the highest they've ever been in Colerain Township. Of course, there's an exception here or there, but as a whole, properties in Colerain Township are the highest they've ever been. Take that to the bank. But as far as, the faster we get property values up overall, the less rental we have, right? So the reality is, you're not going to see, if every home in this community was, say, $300,000, you're not going to see a lot of rental because you couldn't rent it for enough to even cover your mortgage. So slowly but surely that number will go down. Not that there isn't a need for it. There'll always be a need for it, and I'm fine with that. But that will for sure eliminate some of the prototypical slumlord type comments that I receive on a regular basis. Rich had asked what we had talked about at that picnic, and everything comes up. But I would say there was a little bit of a common theme with what some of the residents were wanting, aside from enforcing zoning and some of the common sense things there. But just getting rid of drugs. That seemed to be a common theme that I absolutely hate hearing, and that ultimately comes from community policing. If you want more police, we got to pay for it. If you're happy with the level of service we're getting right now, then be happy. So we'll cross that bridge more when we get there. But Rich, to specifically answer your question, that was one thing that I took away from that picnic was a lot of people. I mean, just right down the road, that everybody's pointing, oh, that's the drug house, and you hate to hear that, but that's why we have detectives. And Benita and Sharon, when you guys were out there, Jenna and I had addressed you on one of your questions here. You have a detective assigned. One of you mentioned that you spoke to Hendricks. That's pretty good. As far as the law is the law, is what Jen and I were addressing to you too when you weren't out here. We have capiases for things as simple as high grass, right? That is as extreme and as good as it gets. I don't know. There's a higher form of government that you would have to respond to, that if you want, the electric chair for parking in your yard or something like that. But for where we are right now, I know that's an extreme example, but where we are right now, we are kicking butt compared to where we were, I promise. I mean, it wasn't that long ago, not more than a year and a half, 2 years ago, I had to fight the other two guys for code enforcement, not these two. And it's here, and it's effective, and there's growing pains with anything in life. So all I can do is just beg for patience on that. Jenna in her report, you said 1,400 down to 1,100 from last year. Is that what it was? Forgive me, you don't have to.
1,400 total complaints entered last year. We're about 58% of the way through the year, and we have just over 1,100 complaints already this year entered into our system that we're addressing.
Gotcha. So there's definitely, no one's turning a blind eye. That's for sure. It's just, unfortunately, some things take longer than others. And I wish everything happened overnight, but that's just not reality. So real quick on the Mike Parsons comment again, he had said something about $40,000 for a gate with the previous administration. I wasn't in favor of that. That was a gate and I believe a structure to sell parking passes. So it was a little bit more than a gate. But again, if Lowe's wants to donate, I'm all about that. I know Richard has since left. I believe you were with Richard, right? Okay, you guys were with Richard. Yeah. I am all about community involvement. There's nothing like pride and ownership. And if we have a group of residents that's willing to come and unlock a gate, assuming that we don't have any issues with fire and EMS needing to get through there, or detectives working a case, or something along those lines, assuming there's no safety issues with that, I'm all about getting residents involved in our community. I mean, I think it was last meeting, the two that are talking right now that are completely ignoring me, Stephanie and Kathy, they actually stepped up for, false alarm drops, right? And you guys are still doing that, right? You haven't fired them yet, right? Perfect. See what I mean? That's exactly when you have people that are ready, willing, and able to volunteer, what more can you ask for? My goodness. The least we can do is make them feel appreciated. So while I'm at it, Kathy and Stephanie, thank you. See, I just killed two birds with one stone with that one. All right, keeping it going here. Stephanie and Kathy, even though I just got done saying nice things about you, I will say this. I disagree with your assessment of the mall versus the school because one's a private detail. So I don't, in my personal opinion, I don't believe that's a fair comparison. However, thank you for doing the false alarm drops for us. Jenna, I'm going to put you on the spot again for one of Stephanie's questions. She was saying staggering the fees potentially to help deter. In your opinion, is that, I don't know if that's even legal, but is that effective? Is that something we've tried? Is that not worth 2 cents on that?
We have not tried it. I don't yet have an opinion on that.
And the opinion would come from Larry, who I haven't heard his voice all night, right, Larry?
Well, yeah, I'd likely work with law
Yeah,
department.
the opinion would come from me.
Okay. Do you want to give one, or you want to wait so I'm not putting you on the spot?
Well, I'm not saying it's impossible that we could do something along those lines, but the statutory section that we use for abating nuisances and going to housing court allows us to go ahead and abate the nuisance and then assess the owner the cost, and we put an assessment on their property. It's not like it's a criminal fine, it's just an assessment for what it costs us to abate the nuisance. And I think that's the quickest and most effective way to do it, frankly.
Perfect. That's all I need.
Is there a $350 administrative fee that goes with that? Because that would get my attention right there, is the $350 fee.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Carry
Okay,
on.
perfect. Okay, so where was I at here? We had Donnie, thank you again for being here tonight. I seriously, I want to be at the ribbon cutting for the booth. I want to see. So I don't know if you told everyone when you were up here. So he's teaching at the school, and you're teaching at basically through Butler Tech for Colerain and Northwest students, right? And they're the ones getting involved in the construction of this. Is that correct? Perfect. So it's always nice to see and hear stories like that, because that's the youth. Those are the people that are going to build our houses someday, and all that fun stuff. So moving on, I'm going to jump again back to Benita and Sharon here. First of all, I appreciate both of your tenacity is unbelievable. It's through the roof, and obviously there's strength in numbers, and I see everyone's still networking, which I also appreciate. I promise there's no ivory tower here. I will say this, just like you heard with the people at the gate, getting involved and volunteering on that. I would love to get you guys, I'm assuming you haven't gone through it. If you have, forgive me. We have a Citizens Police Academy, and we have a Citizens Fire Academy. The next one's coming up, forgive me, when? August 23rd, and is it full? It is full, never mind on that one. You are full, okay. Okay, so stay tuned on that, because then you can drive the, well, you have to pass a test, right, to drive the COP car, Citizens on Patrol. You see the Citizens on Patrol, and it's just an awesome way. Now, I have to say that's through Grapevine. I'm a graduate of the Citizens Fire Academy, not Citizens Police Academy, but the inside knowledge that you get from those programs, and the networking, and just the human factor. You get to know these guys on a personal level, and it's a lot easier to call or email Detective Hendricks or anybody that you've met in that program and say, hey, I got a problem here, can you address it? It's just it's like anything, network. You got to network. So sounds to me like you guys are doing a great job in networking, but just keep it going. You know what I mean? And I think Matt does a great job in that group as well. But I would strongly encourage you, especially with everybody, needs inspiration in life, and you guys have the inspiration. You wouldn't be here if you didn't care. So, please keep that up. And by all means, if you're not getting the results you want, keep coming and standing in front of that mic and holding us accountable. You can yell at me all day long. I got thick skin. I can take it. And ultimately, I realize it's because you care. If you didn't care, you wouldn't be here. So, everything you're doing, just keep doing it. Now, that was my citizens address part of the meeting. How much time do I have left, Dan? Have you joined? I'm out of time.
14 minutes into it.
14, that's it? Cool. So, first of all, I hope everyone's having a great summer. I want to thank Jeff Mills for reaching out to Hardee's and Sonic. Personally, I love hospitals and stuff like that to increase our tax base, among other things, but the residents are overwhelmingly screaming that they want Hardee's and Sonic. So, hopefully, we can make something happen with that. I also want to thank Jeff for setting up a leadership retreat to discuss our 2019 Beautification Initiative. I can't wait to see what we can do to overhaul some of our longstanding beautification issues. I'm telling you, it's a bigger deal than I can even express to you. I'm so excited. And by the way, Matt Teetswort is here. I didn't even see you there. So a greater Grossbeck, that's your guy right there. Network with him. Moving on. I want to thank the school board for inviting us to the ribbon cuttings. The new schools look awesome. We did not have executive session earlier. If you were here alone, it's because we weren't back there. We were watching a ribbon cutting, and that is by far one of the most rewarding things, just seeing start to finish and the asset that brings to the community. And I can't wait to work with the school district more in the future and everything in between. So kudos to them. We're lucky to live in a community where we have things like that. And also, Rich, while I got you, the assessed value, I don't know if you looked up as a whole on the auditor page, Colerain is valued at over $1 billion. There's only one other community that can say that. So be proud that you live in a $1 billion community. I'd like to thank again Greater Northbrook for their continued crusade in bringing Northbrook together at the Capstan picnic in particular. I got to see Raj and Dan. I didn't get to talk to them much because that's a violation of sunshine laws. However, I love them. It was nice seeing them, and I appreciate them getting involved in the community. I also want to thank them for organizing the Whip and Spray event. Both of them were great successes. And if you want to do something like that in Groesbeck, we would be more than happy to, to do those events and help coordinate and all that fun stuff. So don't hesitate. Somberly saying, unfortunately, we did lose, as you heard at the our proclamation earlier, we lost one of Colerain's longtime volunteers turned employee, Steve Cassidy Sr. He had an aggressive cancer, and a month later, unfortunately, he had succumbed to it. He actually started volunteering for the township in the mid-'90s at the Taste of Colerain, the 4th of July fireworks, before becoming a part-time employee at our community center almost 3 years ago. Steve helped bring national acts like Survivor here, if you remember they were here, Emerson Drive, Grand Funk Railroad, to our summer events, and he faithfully served on our summer events committee, and he'll definitely be missed by all. His funeral arrangements are actually, unfortunately, his visitation is tonight until 8 p.m., which I think it's past 8 p.m. now. And then his funeral is actually tomorrow at 11 a.m. at Groesbeck United Methodist Church, then to Crown Hill Memorial Park. There will be a reception at the Colerain Township Community Center afterwards if you're interested in paying your respects to him. Okay, get your calendars out. The Colerain Historical Society's indoor picnic is tomorrow from 6 to 8:30 p.m. at the Northwest Community Church. Bring your most famous potluck dish to share. Is that right, Chris Henson? Member of Colerain Historical Society? Oh, and if you didn't register, you're in trouble with both of us, right? Perfect. Thank you again for all your work at the Colerain Historical Society, as well as Matt. They put a lot of time into that. The West Union Square project on John Rose is actually going to give me a private tour tomorrow, so I'm looking forward to that. But the official ribbon cutting is September 7th at 10 a.m., so mark that on your calendar. This Friday evening is the last free movie in the park at the Colerain Township Park Amphitheater. The movie is Franz Ferdinand. Kids karaoke begins at 8:30 p.m. And I want to give a special thanks to Darcy Bradley for sponsoring the movies in the park. Otherwise, we wouldn't have them. Also, Commencement Church, they provide popcorn at the movies, and I believe they do it at the concerts as well. Also, a huge thank you to Commencement Church for donating 3 giant inflatables to the last day of the summer park program. It was an awesome summer. Again, I want to thank Raj and Dan till I'm blue in the face for supporting our parks and our township kids, because you guys probably don't realize how many kids you made smile this summer, and parents too. It was absolutely one of the most rewarding things I've ever been a part of. Greatest journey ever. I'm forever grateful. Thank you all very much for your vote on that. This Saturday is our first ever kayak canoeing event at Heritage Park. I'm told it sold out right away. Kevin, can you confirm that? It did. Okay, so hopefully next year maybe we can get more kayaks or do it a second date or a third date or sessions. But my idea for this, because I periodically do this, we'll go float down the river from Heritage Park down to, you can go to Dravo or by the ballpark there. The name's escaping me right now. So my 2 cents on that were, the reason why I was not one of the people to sign up to kayak down the river is because I wanted to have a backup plan. If and I'll have to play this by ear, but if you're social media savvy, I'll post online probably the day before or maybe 2 days before, if I'm lucky, weather permitting, to go float down the river that same day after they're done, or maybe even at the same time if they don't have a problem with it. We'll figure that out. But it's a beautiful river to float down, whether it's on an inner tube, an air mattress. You can float down it on just about anything. It's something that we could have an unlimited number of people. It wouldn't be through the township. It would just be something that I would get to hang out with all my cronies and anyone that wants to admire our beautiful river. So I will check with Last Second, follow up with me, and I'll post whether or not, because if it rains real hard up north the night before or something like that, it could be a little too dangerous with the rapids. But if it's a hot, dry day or leading up to that or something like that, there are some parts of the river where you actually would have to lift your tube out of it because there's not enough current. So stay tuned with me on that one. If anybody, employees too, are welcome to join if you'd like to go tubing down the river with me. Let's see here. Primitive camping, I'm obviously bummed to hear that that's not going to happen. Next year we'll positively make it happen beyond the shadow of a doubt, because I don't like giving up on anything in life that I'm passionate about, and I think our parks are still underutilized, and it's a unique thing that we've never done before. Kevin's punishment for that is the sunflower field, so I look forward to watching you plant sunflowers this whenever the season is for sunflowers. The Eyes of Freedom Veterans Tribute is a nationally traveling tribute to America's veterans, and will be visiting Colerain Township from September 6th through the 9th. The exhibit will be open for viewing from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. each day, and will be located right out here at the Drew Campbell Memorial Commons, 4160 Springdale Road. Our next regular trustee meeting will be Patriots Day, and earlier that morning we will have a police and fire breakfast at the community center. So hopefully I get to see everybody there. And that, correct me if I'm wrong, that's the one where we traditionally honor firefighter and paramedic and police officer of the year. Correct? Perfect. Have we taken any nominations on that, on who it's going to be this year? Okay, cool. I know who not to nominate. So we'll do something for Chief Denny's belated birthday party there too. Is that correct? No. Happy belated birthday. Perfect. If you didn't get him something, you still have a chance. We'll be here for another hour or two with my speech, as long as it is. Last but not least, I just want to say I hope everyone has a happy Labor Day and has a great first day of school with all the kids going back to school. So as always, I make myself available just about any time any resident wants to talk. And Dan, how long did I go?
18 minutes, not too bad.
Really? 18 minutes? Wow.
Okay, thank you. Jeff, next part of the meeting, please.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the addressing new business. So we'll start with the public safety departments and in particular Ms. Chief Cook in the fire department.
Okay, Board, I have 3 items for you to consider this evening. The first one is a request authorization for the acceptance of grant funding in the amount of $1,200 from the State of Ohio Division of Emergency Medical Services from their 2018-19 Priority 1 grant. The purpose of the grant funding source is to support the acquisition of EMS training equipment.
I would motion that we accept the grant.
I'll second the motion.
It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Heather, please call for a vote.
Mr. Insco?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
The second item is to recommend adoption of a motion to permit Mr. Mills, Township Administrator, to sign an agreement to provide services and assistance in conjunction with the state and local emergency management and public health agencies with the distribution of medications as a point of distribution during an infectious disease outbreak or disaster. Historically, the township has been a point of distribution partner since 2012. The current agreement is noted to be outdated and contains inaccurate information. The new agreement will allow for the continuation of the partnership, thus providing a valuable service to the residents of the township in the event of a community-wide disaster or emergency.
I would motion that we would approve the contract with the State of Ohio and Hamilton County as a community point of dispensing site to update the contract. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing.
Chief,
Go ahead.
what the site would be, Chief?
Well, in the planning stage, it's been right here to where we could facilitate traffic through a designated, drive-through. But it would be right here at the governmental site is where the point of distribution would be. And it would, like I said, it would be in conjunction with the state and the local agencies, along with our fire department representatives and Public Works, and setting up traffic flows and things like that.
Is there any other discussion?
Not for mine.
I would just like to add that that's the kind of thing that would make a community stand out in the event of a disaster, that we had a plan, as opposed to some other places that don't have a plan. So thank you for putting that together. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, Heather, please call for a vote.
Mr. Insco?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
And then the last item I have is to request authorization to accept a monetary donation from Mrs. Quang Joe Park of Menominee Drive in appreciation for fire and emergency medical services provided to the community.
I'll proudly make that motion, and a giant thank you.
And it was in the amount of $50 if I didn't state the amount, so.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
And I'll second it. It's been motioned and seconded to accept the $50 donation. Is there any discussion? I would just add thank you to Ms. Park.
Yes.
And is there any other discussion? Hearing none, Heather, please call for a vote.
Mr. Insco?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Thank you, Chief Cook.
Thank you.
Chief Denny?
I have 2 items for the board. The first is a motion to transfer property, and it's kind of odd to put it that way, but this is recommending action of the board to transfer ownership of Colerain Police K-9 Kudo to Police Officer Brian Huntington. Kudo has reached the end of his retirement, or his usefulness as a police K-9. He will be retiring, and Officer Brian Huntington has expressed desire to take him as a private pet. We checked with Larry. There's a requirement that the officer purchase him for $1. So I think we're going to be able to afford that, and the board's permission will make that transfer.
I would motion for the transfer so that the doggy can go into a well-deserved retirement.
I'll second, and then we'll have a
Been
discussion.
motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, when we retire a dog like that, what is there a ceremony? Is there something? I just feel like it's.
We've never done it before,
We've never had a dog
We've never
retirement
had that
ceremony?
happen before, no.
All right, well,
Can we
I'm
pick
open to
one
that
out of
if
the
you've
bag?
got spare time. How's it?
Is there?
A cake? You got a cake?
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Is there any other discussion on that motion, Raj?
No.
Hearing none, Heather, please call for a vote.
I do know of a certain 5.5-year-old that bought him a tennis ball.
He got that the other day, and he thanks you.
Mr. Insko?
Happy retirement, aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Second item is a motion to permit Township Administrator to sign an agreement. Recommend adoption of a motion to permit Colerain Township Administrator Jeff Mills to sign an agreement with the Northwest Local School District for police services. This is a 2-year renewal contract for our school resource officers and our district investigator. The changes are that the district has invested in a second investigator to serve as the school district safety officer. So he's going to focus on the ALICE plans for active shooters and for the building security and all those things that people are very concerned with now with our schools. So this officer is going to focus on that and training the district employees as well. So we're glad to see the district's commitment to the safety of the students.
I would motion to approve such a thing.
I'll offer a second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? I would like to.
Yes,
Go ahead, Raj.
I have a few questions, Chief. Totally, the Colerain High School and Northwest Schools. In the Colerain High School, you'll have 2 resource officers.
Yes.
And 1 district safety officer, title investigator. Okay? Now, you try to add 1 more investigator, district attorney.
Correct.
According to your argument, that second investigator would be investigating these kids don't go to the Northwest school, our locals. Can that 1 officer you already have, the investigator officer, the district investigator, can do the same function?
Speaking with the district, that officer that does the residency and the truancy, that is a job that's actually been greater than even 1 could take care of. They had toyed with the idea of hiring another one just to do residency and truancy, but decided against that in favor of getting a school safety or a district safety officer. So we've always had that district truancy and attendance officer, but this is the safety officer is what they're adding. So we'll have 2 at Northwest, or 2 at Colerain, 1 at Northwest, and then 2 investigators.
Adding 1 more officer to the school, how much impact it will create to have the beat cops on the street, beat police officer? Are you going to pulling out from the beat police officer?
No, we're not. We won't be taking anything off the street at all. In fact, it lessens the load on the officers that are out there because we have another officer who is specifically detailed to handle those incidents at the school.
I got another question, Chief. You mentioned about in this thing, the Green Township will be helping you, okay, in the school. Any type of problem happens, it's called, which according to your words is a mutual aid, okay? So you're gonna call out the Green Township, if any problem in the school, the Green Township officers to help to back up?
Now, the mutual aid agreement allows our investigator to service White Oak Elementary or White Oak Junior High. So it's an agreement with Green Township to allow us to come into Green Township and offer any services we may need to there. They would still respond for any emergency or any call for service at the school. We just handle the truancy and those items like that.
So you don't want to utilize the neighborhood, the close-by officers, agency?
We are the close-by officer in
Well,
that
the
case.
agency, close-by.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Springfield, police.
Well, White Oak Middle School is
A
over.
lot of Colerain residents
Is
go to
over in the neighborhood.
Neighborhood
that's in
Green
Green
Township,
Township.
White Oak, but I'm talking about
And Montford
Colerain
Heights
and then
is, I don't know
Northwest.
if they're in Montford, I don't know if Green Township has somebody in Montford Heights.
That would do the same.
I know that Bart West, the former chief, told me they go through there every day.
They do, and they have a dedicated SRO at Oak Hills, but I believe that's the only.
I mean, over at Montford Heights Elementary on
Right,
West
there's
Fort
not
Road.
a dedicated officer, but they do routine walkthroughs.
Sorry, Raj.
Sorry, okay. So you also mentioned about when you write the school safety grants, and whoever writes the grants, the grant, what do you call the grant manage the grant. Okay, so most of the grants in the past, where do they get from? The school board writes the grants, or the police department writes the grants?
We generally can write, we both can write grants for sometimes the same item. So we'll do that occasionally as well, but they'll hit it from their side and we'll do it from our side as well.
So you will split the grants? Whoever writes the
Well,
grants?
they would be awarded to
Manage the grants.
one group or the other. We wouldn't split the money with them, but it would be awarded to one of the entities.
Okay. So all these benefits will be paid by the township police officers working in that school district.
I'm sorry?
All the benefits, all the benefits of the police will be paid. The school board doesn't pay any benefits.
They pay us, well, this one here is $125,000 additional for the other investigator.
That the school district is paying us.
They are paying us, and again, that's for 9 months of service, so that's not a full year's worth of service. We still get to use those SROs and detectives on time when school's not in, during the summer, during spring break, during Christmas break. We still get use of those officers. So that amount we're getting is still not the full rate the service that we're getting from the officer. But we do split the SRO contract. They pay for one, we pay for the other. That's been traditionally how we've handled that, because there is a great deal of benefit we get from the township by having the officers in the schools. So it's not a one-for-one comparison you could make.
Thank you, Chief.
And the other discussion I would have, having been on the other side of that and been on the Northwest Local School District Board of Education for 8 years, I thought it was a great partnership. For better or worse, the demographic of kids that age, if you can expose them to a police officer and show them that the police are kind of watching what's going on, but at the same time they're human and you can get to know them, you don't know how many lives you might change and get somebody on a better path by having officers in the school. That is the time and age that we live in. But I was on the other side of it a few years ago, and I saw what a great benefit it was, and the fact that it's just another example of another good partnership that Colerain Township has with our local school district, Northwest, and you don't know how many problems you're stopping in the incubator stage before somebody gets out. Somebody actually knows a police officer and gets to know them, and maybe that might have an impact on their life. And plus, for better or worse, that demographic, the kids that age do commit crimes, and if you can have somebody embedded in the schools, you might stop a lot of stuff before it ever happens.
We're actually hiring officers now that are coming to us because of the relationship they have with the SRO. We've been around long enough now that we're actually hiring these kids, so.
Was there any other,
we didn't foresee.
was there any other discussion? Heather, please call for a vote.
Mr. Insco?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you, Chief Denny. Public Services is next with 2 items.
Thank you, Jeff. My first item is a motion to execute a contract with Geiler Company for HVAC chiller here at the Administration Building. We recommend the adoption of a motion to award a contract 18-4 for the provision of an 80-ton chiller and accompanying equipment to the Geiler Company, who was the lowest bidder and met their criteria set out in the specifications at $128,300. We received 4 bids on the project. The bids were reviewed by our consultant, Four Seasons, who recommended that the township award the contract to the low bidder, the Geiler Company.
And this is a company we've done business with in the past, obviously.
We've done business with Four Seasons. The Geiler Company is, I think, a well-respected HVAC
They're a very
company.
well-known local company. I would motion that we approve such a thing.
I'll second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? I believe we're replacing the original equipment from when this building was constructed in 96, 97. So
I don't know if it's just this meeting tonight, but I'm awfully hot here tonight, so I don't know if the chiller's not working.
Well, I mean, we're getting ahead of it. I'd rather be in control of when it gets replaced than not be in control
It needs
of.
replaced, and rather than wait till it breaks down
Right.
and have to rent a chiller, it's best to be proactive and replace it at this time.
Right, okay. Was there any other discussion? Hearing none, Heather, please call for a vote.
Mr. Insco?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
My final item is a motion to hire a community center event attendant. I recommend the adoption of a motion to hire Michael Dish as a part-time event attendant effective August 17th, 2018, at an hourly rate of $15 per hour, contingent upon the successful completion of a background check, and this will fill an open position at the community center.
I'll make the motion.
And I'll second it. It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Heather, please call for a vote.
Mr. Insco?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Mr. Schwartzoff. Ms. LeCount with planning and zoning items.
3 items for you this evening. First is a requested, recommended adoption of a resolution to remove uncontrolled vegetation and/or refuse at the listed properties. This resolution is recommended to allow the trustees to abate and assess properties with Ohio Revised Code nuisance violations.
I'd motion that we approve such a thing.
I'll second that motion.
It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? I would like to add that I got an email yesterday at 3. I was over by 8 o'clock last night to look at it. I'm kind of learning how that process works. You probably saw the pictures of that stuff that somebody left behind when they moved out, and thank you for keeping the process rolling along. Is there any other discussion? Raj? Greg?
I got one more. That's the Hamilton County Municipal Court has a property court set up. You know that a lot of Cincinnati cases should be heard. And trying to talk to some of the judges, they have similar type of court system put up in a Colerain. So we'll more aggressively cite these people who are violating the property codes, damaging. And I think, what's your idea, thoughts on that?
On housing court?
Hamilton County
we
Municipal Court
currently
have the hearing here in the Colerain Township.
have it here.
You can cite them right
I can see some pros
here.
and cons either way. Right now, we currently cite them to, we go downtown and we meet them downtown. I think sometimes just getting people in front of a judge at the big courthouse helps gain compliance more quickly. So I think there's pros and cons either way. At this point in time, we are making our current process a little more efficient and trying to move through that pretty quickly. Like I stated in my administrative report, we have cited, I think, 59 cases down to housing court this year alone. So we're getting pretty effective response from specifically Judge Bouchard in his housing court down there. And as far as I know, he's going to be the judge down there for the time being. So I don't have any issue continuing to work in his courtroom to make sure that we're getting compliance. As far as moving it here, that's something that I think we can explore some of those options. I know Mr. Weckbach has started to look into some of those things as well, but I don't have a solid answer for you at this point.
So most of the people you cite, they usually show up on the court?
Not everyone. But we do, yes, we do either, often what'll happen is once they're served with their court papers, a lot of times we'll actually get a phone call, okay, I'll clean it up, it'll be done before, can you get out here before the court date to verify that I've cleaned it up? And if so, we can dismiss the case.
Are we pretty good about getting out there when they have those
Yes.
turnaround time?
Yes, absolutely, because if we can dismiss a case,
Yeah, absolutely.
it's less work for us, and our goal is compliance. It's not, our goal is not punitive. So we do have a number that we'll call, and we'll find compliance before that court date. We have a number of others who will show up and realize that we're serious and we're actually going to put them in front of a judge, and suddenly they're more willing to comply. And then we have others who don't show up. In that instance, a KPS is issued. And we will follow up on those KPS, again, KPI, I don't know if that's what the plural is, but.
KPIs.
KPIs.
So here, courts here, you issue KPS, our police officer, they know where they live, they catch
Well,
them.
and that's what, we can work with our own police department. It's nice having them right across the hallway. They work well with us, and if, we need them to head out, they can head out and try and deliver one of those KPS, and then we get a new court date, and again, they start to see that we're really serious, and we will come find them and make sure we get compliance on these.
That's another, we hear in the meetings, a lot of the residents come and say how that some of the neighborhood going to going down, so.
It takes time. It definitely takes longer than we'd like, but often once property owners realize that we're serious and we will take them to court over it, is when we see the compliance. And so sometimes there's no movement, and suddenly it's cleaned up.
And just an illustrative example, of how serious this is. I mean, if you don't clean up the junk and debris in your property, not only could you have a warrant issued for your arrest, but Judge Bouchard has actually threatened to put an ankle bracelet and sentence you to, what is that called? Home detention?
House arrest.
House arrest.
Yes, until you clean up your house. I mean, that's serious. You know what I mean? I mean, that's about as serious as you can get. And we've been taking these through, and Jenna, as well as Chris Cavallero, our code enforcement officer, Tom, Basarge, and Scott Solman, our assistant law director, they spend hours on this, and I can't wait. This is another one of those things where I just cannot wait till we can get these operational dashboards up and running, and it's coming along very well. But you'll be able to start to see these numbers and have a better understanding of how much work goes into that and the real impact that it's making. So,
Now, one more question.
Sure.
What are we going to do about the slumlords buying this property, they're abandoning? Are we going after the slumlords, the property owners?
We go after the property owners when we find violations. So whether it's, slumlord or, a hoarder or some, we go after the property maintenance violations just like we would anyone else. So if it is a slumlord who happens to own a large number of properties and they have a large number of violations, we will go after them for all of those violations.
Thank you.
Was there any other discussion on that? Hearing none, Heather, please call for a vote.
Mr. Insco?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
I have the resolution here for your signature. I can sit down.
Thank you. Second item this evening is a requested motion to establish a comprehensive plan land use committee and adopt the attached bylaws. Recommended adoption to establish comprehensive plan land use committee according to the drafted bylaws attached in the board packet. Volunteer applications, pending your approval this evening, volunteer applications will be accepted to begin the selection process. We'd like to collect those, leave that window open until 4 p.m. on Friday, August 24th, 2018. That way it gives us some time to get those applications in, but then start to review them and hopefully bring back some recommendations to this board for your approval. These applications will be online and we can include it in the next circle update. The purpose of this committee is to identify appropriate land use policies and the creation of an updated land use plan to be included in the township comprehensive plan.
I would motion that we would approve such a thing.
Hold off for a second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Heather, please call for a vote.
Mr. Insco? Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Thank you. And the last item I have is requested motion to set a public hearing on a major modification to a preliminary development plan in case number ZA 2013-003, Sanctuary Point, on September 11th, 2018 at 7 p.m. The Colerain Township Zoning Commission is expected to make a recommendation on the major modification to a preliminary development plan for Sanctuary Point Nursing Facility at their August 21st, 2018 regular meeting. This major modification would require a public hearing to be held in front of this Board of Trustees within 30 days of that recommendation.
I'll make a motion.
And I'll second it. It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? We need to set the date.
in the motion?
September 11th.
Yep.
September 11th. So it would be that night, what time? Or just
7 p.m. It would
be in
be
the middle of the meeting? Okay, I got it. It's been motioned and seconded. Was there any other discussion? Hearing none, please call for a vote, Heather.
Mr. Insco?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. LeCount. The last 4 items of new business are administrative items. The first one is a motion to adopt the 2018 5-year strategic plan. Recommendation is to approve that strategic plan. Our police and fire departments have had strategic plans for several years now. Starting in 2017, the planning department and public services department had strategic plans, but there's never been a unified strategic plan for the entire township. I think that this demonstrates a lot of things, one of which is how far we've come from the days of being siloed departments that are each doing our own thing independently of one another and coming together towards a common vision. I'm really excited about it. I talked about it earlier. how this is an effort to prioritize our the work that we do and communicate that with our residents and our trustees, and use it for ourselves to keep the focus. I also mentioned earlier that this document is the result of an incredible amount of work by many individuals. I have to say thank you to Jesse Urbancic, who is our planner, who did a great amount of the orientation of filling in with the document, creating the document. So thank you, Jesse. The feeling of setting and accomplishing big goals is one that gets all of this leadership team excited. I think that this strategic plan tries to put forward some big ideas, and for that I'm grateful. So the recommendation is to approve the strategic plan, to adopt the strategic plan.
I'll make the motion.
And I will second it. It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I got it. On the strategic planning, so you got a 5-year plans.
Yep.
We're gonna revisit, like, where are we now?
Thank you. Yes.
Have we accomplished this goal?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So yeah.
Either change to alter or modify?
Thank you for bringing that up. So this is also part of a larger integrated way of doing business at the township. So each year we'll have a leadership retreat, and this year that leadership retreat, as Greg mentioned, will be in early September, where we'll sit down with each trustee separately and find out what your goals are for 2019. We're going to be reaching out starting tomorrow to our residents through Circle, and if you come into the administrative building, you'll be able to pick up a paper copy, and so we can get your feedback on what your priorities are for 2019. And yeah, it's a living document, so each year we're going to revisit it, but we want to keep that horizon of thinking 5 years ahead, while setting these sort of quarterly goals. It's also important, and maybe for the first time, that we're going to be tying our budgetary process to a strategic plan, right? Exactly. I mean, I think that that's the best practice, and I think sure that that's a good idea, and I'm glad that we're doing it. So, yeah, this is sort of the beginning of, and it's also going to be the way that our non-contract employees are scored in their performance evaluations. So each non-contract employee is going to be assigned initiatives to be working on, and whether we achieve those initiatives in a timely fashion is going to dictate how our performance evaluations go, and that impacts pay. And so you can see that this is sort of an organizing document for a lot of work that's going to be done in the township.
We'll be able to, how would I say, convey this planning to the residents through the town hall meetings, let people know?
I'm not aware of any town hall meetings coming up, but we're going to be putting out, we're going to make them aware of the strategic plan by talking about it, by sending out emails, and having it on our website. And if you look out in the rotunda today, you'll notice a bunch of posters. Those posters are going to stay out there for a couple more days, and then they're going to go live in the departments that are going to be working on all that work. So, yeah.
Was there any other discussion? Hearing none, Heather, please call for a vote.
Mr. Insco?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye. And Jeff, I want to interrupt you just for a second. Are any of our, do we need everybody here still? Because I know that.
No.
Do we need anybody?
I need Chief Denny. But aside from that, everyone else is dismissed.
And you're welcome to stay, but
everyone else is out of time now.
You've got stuff going on, so
we'll see you in the morning.
1 minute. You got 1 minute. Go.
Very good.
I just want to keep the
Before we
meeting
change our
going, but I
minds,
don't want to keep you here any later than we have to.
Very good. Thank you for that. The next item is a motion to establish a financial advisory committee and adopt bylaws. It was the direction of the board to establish a financial advisory committee. So we have put together a set of bylaws, and the idea is that each individual trustee would be able to nominate a individual to serve on that committee. The 3 trustees would have a unanimous, like a consensus candidate that would go on. That would be the 4th, and then the township administrator appoints the 5th voting member of the Financial Advisory Committee. The purpose of the Financial Advisory Committee is to advise the administration on fiscal policies for the township. It's a very important role. It's one that I'm grateful for, and I can't wait to stand this thing up and get working on that.
Do we need to take any kind of a vote to disband the previous one, or was it just automatically disbanded, or what? How does that work? Do you know?
I feel like that was disbanded. Yeah, I'll have to go back and look at the minutes, but I'm
Be on the safe side. They show up one day and.
No, they have not been meeting. I'm sure that they're disbanded.
Okay, I didn't know if we had to take a vote on that or
That
something.
is a good question, though.
Thanks, Dan. Every once in a while I get one.
That's the first time tonight, Greg. Should we?
No,
What is the?
I'm pretty sure that it was converted at the history of the Financial Advisory Committee, as I recall, was the township trustees created a committee to report to them, and then that was disbanded, and it was changed into a committee to report to the administration, and then the administration stopped calling meetings, and so that was done. And I can go back and give you citations.
Well,
to,
Heather was here then.
Right, in fact,
You were on it, weren't you?
yes, I recall that Mr. Malloy emailed each member of the previous Financial Advisory Committee and told them that he was disbanding the committee.
Yeah, there we go.
So they've been made aware.
Fair enough.
So it's been. Did we motion that yet?
No.
I'll motion for approval.
Offer a second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion?
I have. We heard from Stephanie and Kath in the Financial Committee. So we talking about the non-residents, in the past, they contribute any type of, who is going to look for it? Any for the trustees or, contribution, anything they made, anything, any of the staff members you're going to include? Are we going to look into it?
I'm sorry. What's
The contribution
Yep.
To the trustees campaign.
You're asking me to look into whether or not staff that serve as non-voting members have contributed to campaigns?
Yes.
Okay.
I think on our volunteer form, that question is on there.
Yeah, it's on there. So we've got so the way that you apply for any board or commission in Colerain Township is you fill out a volunteer application, and on that volunteer application.
Back in March, I think.
Yes,
March
that you
or
all
April.
approved. Yeah, that's right. And so, so we'll be sending that out, and it'll be posted on our website. And anybody that wants to apply, or you can just come on up to the township building and you can apply. And in that application, it asks, have you contributed to a campaign?
I think what Raj is asking about is the staff.
The staff members who
Okay.
may
Staff
be.
members.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any, but I can double check. I can go back and look.
Are you saying they should fill out a volunteer application, Roger?
I mean, so
You go through the same process, how you do that for volunteers.
So the non-voting member.
The township, right?
No, so the non-voting members are Heather, me, Emily, and Jeff. And I can tell you that I did not donate to any campaign. Did you? Did you, Jeff? Did not. Okay, so maybe Heather did, but she's a political person. She's a political. You.
And you had also mentioned school board.
Right.
And of course, I contributed to the last school board campaign.
Sure. Right. So I mean, there's your answer. I mean, we can confirm that with Board of Elections reports, but I don't think that you need to worry about the three of us, at least. And I don't think you need to worry about Heather. And so
I don't know. I'd worry about me.
I'm worried about Raj.
Anyway, so did we motioned and seconded and had discussion?
Motioned and seconded, we've had discussion, yes.
Is there any other discussion? So we'll watch for that to pop up on the website. Heather, please call for a vote.
Very good.
Mr. Inscoe?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Thank you, Board. The next item is a motion to consider a grievance. As we are all aware, Mr. Robert Brinkman was formerly a police officer at Colerain Township. He was terminated by the board at the last meeting. Well, on Sunday, July 29th, 2018, we received an email from a representative of the Fraternal Order of Police representing Mr. Brinkman, and that representative filed a grievance for the termination of Mr. Brinkman. He alleges that the termination was a violation of the collective bargaining agreement. Per section 7.5 step 3 of the collective bargaining agreement, I responded to this grievance, and I included that letter. I formally denied the grievance. I did so because very plain reading of the collective bargaining agreement demonstrates that, would support what we did. Mr. Brinkman committed gross misconduct by being indicted of a felony. And so as soon as you commit gross misconduct, there is no progressive discipline that occurs. You can jump straight to termination, and that's what we did. So my step 3 action was to deny the grievance. The next step in the collective bargaining process is to appeal to you all. And so the question is, do you approve or deny the grievance? The recommendation is, well, I've already made my statement about.
So read the motion so that we answer it.
So if you were to if you were to make a motion to deny the grievance, that would mean that you are supporting the termination. So
Then I will make a motion to put it into words. I will.
Hold on. That didn't sound right.
Yeah.
I will,
You move to deny the grievance.
I would.
To deny his grievance.
Double negative.
Yes, you move to deny the grievance, meaning you are supporting the work that you've already done in terminating him. If you move to accept the grievance, then you are saying that you believe that you should not have terminated him. So those are the two options. Denying the grievance is.
So go ahead. Let's open it to the floor first, I think.
Perfect.
I move to deny the grievance of Robert Brinkman.
Very good.
I would obviously support that.
Okay, so are you seconding it?
Yes,
So it's been
absolutely.
motioned and seconded. Now the discussion.
This just felt like salt in the wound to me. That's just me, but that's all I'm going to say about that. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all, right?
Raj? Hearing no other, did you have a comment?
Can we table this on the special session, talk with Larry, more discussions, see all the legal issues involved?
Well, I think you should make a decision tonight, if you want to have an executive session.
Did you want to go into executive session to discuss it?
You've already made this decision. I mean, you.
The first time,
terminated him.
right.
And the reason that you terminated him was because he was indicted on 2 separate counts.
Right.
By the policies and procedures of the Colerain Township Police Department, that constitutes gross misconduct. And because of that, it was unnecessary to go through progressive discipline. So you as a board have already terminated him. He filed a grievance saying he didn't believe that was in accordance with the collective bargaining agreement. And the reason he did that is if you deny the grievance, then he goes to an arbitrator. And that's where he's going to get the final say and the final decision. So I think all the same reasons that you already voted to terminate him are still present. And I think you have, I'm happy to meet with you and discuss it, but you did already move to terminate him. And this, if you deny the grievance, you're just reaffirming your termination.
Are you satisfied with that, Raj?
Did you need to?
If you
We're
want
in
to
recess for a minute so you can.
Totally fine.
I would talk privately in the special session some more.
We can do that right now?
Now or?
Oh, no, after if you want to move.
Just to
or
get
now, you can
further
do that?
information.
Yeah.
But just so that you know, we have to make that decision tonight in the collective bargaining agreement. It says that the next meeting, it has to be.
I'm comfortable voting.
I'm comfortable voting.
Okay. Would you like to go into executive session now, or would you like to?
I'd like to go, I don't want to go on the public.
Okay. The motion that you would make is.
Wait a second.
First, you've got a motion on the floor with a second. I think if you want to go into executive session, you ought to move to table the motion
I don't
to
think we can bring
deny
it back up tonight then.
until after executive session.
Does it require a 24-hour notice or something goofy like that, even though it was already on the, because you're technically ending it, then you'd be bringing it back, correct? Am I understanding that correctly?
You just need a majority vote to make this
You
happen.
just need a majority vote, yes.
Well, I would be in favor of,
Well, don't vote yet.
I'm just saying.
I'll go ahead, okay, go ahead with
If
the
you want.
No, go ahead, go ahead. with
Okay,
the-
is there any other
Call for the roll
discussion?
call.
Is there any other discussion? Hearing none. Heather,
Mr.
please.
Insko?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Very
Okay, so now you have what you need.
So the grievance has been denied by me, and it's been denied by you, and his next step is to appeal that to an arbitrator, and I feel pretty confident that we'll prevail.
Do you have any questions, Mark?
Just a procedural one. Do we need to, Larry, do you need to send a letter, or should we handle that, or how does that work?
You've always handled that in the past.
Yes.
If you would like to go into executive session now to discuss that, I'm happy to do that.
We have a opportunity for executive session as item 13 on the agenda. So we can go into executive session to discuss that, but let's stay with the agenda and get these other two items done.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Board.
Yes.
Are you okay with that, Raj? I mean,
Sure.
we can go into session if you want to.
Sure.
Very good. Okay. The final item on the administration new business agenda is a motion to execute a contract with Immersion Design for the feasibility and programming study of the Colerain Township Training Center. The recommendation is to approve this motion. The training center that we're talking about is located on Old Colerain Road. Currently, it's used by our fire and EMS departments to do training. We have a contract with Cincinnati State Technical College to provide paramedic training, for example, at that facility. We also have a contract with Rumpke.
So yeah, Rumpke's the other half.
So we leased half of the facility to Rumpke. They operate their data center there. That lease is expiring at the end of this year.
The Rumpke leases?
The Rumpke leases. Fortunately, Chief Denny has taken the initiative to create great relationships with law enforcement community in the region and state and even nationally, and has brought a project that could have considerable operational as well as financial benefit to the township. In order to figure out whether or not, and it's no secret, we're talking to the United States Drug Enforcement Administration on the creation of a regional drug interdiction strike force that would be located here in Colerain Township at our training facility. In order to figure out if that lease is going to work or not, we need to do this feasibility and programming study. I believe that this is a very wise move financially for the township and also operationally.
Were there any grants available for this?
No, but I believe that there's a strong possibility that we recoup this money in future contract with them.
I'm assuming here that Rumpke is not wanting to renew the lease because they're building a brand new building right across the street.
That's exactly right.
Well,
Yes,
that
sir.
was a good
Yep.
guess, wasn't it?
Yep.
Actually, there are some grants available. The president signed that I mentioned to you about opiate, heroin.
Should we go ahead and motion?
Crisis. Yeah,
Yeah,
go
that's
ahead.
good. I'll motion for approval of such a thing.
That'd be great.
I'll offer a second.
It's been motioned and seconded, and now is there any discussion?
I think I met the DEA people before. I think we're putting Colerain Township on the radar, in the national radar. They're having like headquarters here in this region. Being the presence of the federal narcotic people being in the Colerain Township, it's added value for the dope dealers coming into this town. Also, I know there's lots of grants available. We probably recoup that money through the opiate. Actually, they're paying for that, the grants. I sent that. I'll forward the email to you.
Very good.
It's a 2018, 2019 grant.
Okay.
One of the CARA funding. You probably, Chief might know. We'll probably apply for the grant. It's a good thing. Also, I spoke to you about this.
Yes.
That building will be, if you don't do anything, we lose all this, no value to the building. So I think it's a good move, part of township.
Very good.
And for the township also, in the nation, they have one of the headquarters for the DEA.
Is there any other discussion?
Yeah, can I ask, is this the same group of guys that we met with, all three of us? You had us
Yes.
in that meeting, and so things have obviously progressed.
Yes.
Good, excellent.
Yeah, I know you've put a lot of work into this.
Yeah, a lot of,
And I would rather have them have their local headquarters here rather than in any other municipality.
Absolutely.
Because why should we let somebody else have that when we can have it in Colerain?
A lot of
So
benefit for us in the
Thank
future.
you for the work that you've put into it. Is there any other discussion, or should we?
Also, you mentioned about you might recoup the money from the federal
Yes,
once they get the lease to them?
yes. Yep, and this isn't just the DEA, it's the DEA, ATF, U.S. Postal Inspections, Customs and Immigration, U.S. Attorneys, U.S. Marshals. I mean, it's like it's a federal.
40 agencies.
Task force, it's a strike
force.
It's
It's
the
a
one
strike
they
force.
newly created. I think they are one.
Yeah, I would love to have that in our
It'd be a
township.
good thing for the township.
Heather, please call for a vote.
Mr. Insco?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye. Our next item on the agenda is fiscal office report.
I'd just like to ask for your usual approval of payroll, purchase orders, and receipts.
I'll make the motion.
And I will second. It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Heather, please call for a vote.
Mr. Insco?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
All right. And I just really wanted to take this opportunity to thank Emily and the fiscal office staff. I know that the month of July was absolutely no fun. Actually, I think you had a lot of fun with the 4th of July. And so I know you were some of the staff helping with that. And although the open enrollment is hectic and everything else, I think it's neat to see everybody. So, and I appreciate the long hours and with that and the audit on top of it, on top of everything else that goes on a normal daily basis. I just wanted to acknowledge and say thank you.
Oh, okay, thank you, Heather. Citizens address, we have a couple of them that signed up for non-topic, and Keith Miller, I think he left. So, Rich McVeigh did note that he left. So that would be, Kathy, you've got another item tonight? Kathy Moore?
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
And I know, Dan, you like to compare the township with the school district, and there are several items on that sheet that are considered when rehiring an employee, that they start out with 0 vacation or sick time. If they are rehired back, they start out at step 1, and it's not their current salary. There's some items I highlighted for you that I'd like you to take a look at so that you can possibly work on revising some of the policies of the township. There was a lot brought up tonight. Do we have yet a social media policy set by the township?
I have been a part of drafting one, and Mr. Weckbach is working on a lot of our policies. What is the status?
Yes, we have a draft. It is currently going through our process of making sure that everything is legal and what have you, because there are some sticky subjects in social media policies.
Thank you. As far as the old P&G building, for this study, the feasibility study, who pays for that study? Is it going to be the police department or the general fund? And if they do lease this building, who would get the income from that lease?
It's the general fund will pay for the study, and that hasn't been determined yet. The second part of your
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
We haven't
And
figured that
then
out.
also, I want to ask about our tax exempt status. If we are not using the building and we're getting the property tax elimination on there exempt, we're exempt from property tax because we own it, and then we are leasing it out to other agencies, I don't know if that would change our tax exempt status.
That's a really good question.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
We'll look
thought
into
so.
it. Yep.
Okay, well, I had maybe you can answer this. The school, or I read that Chief Denny has advertised for part-time police officers, and we have never had part-time police officers before. And it said for the school resource officer that they are basically part-time employees, but they will receive health benefits.
I don't believe that we're hiring for part-time police officers right now.
Well, that's what it said in there, that they will be part-time,
It said where?
Are you
On-
talking about the contract?
On the, was it in the contract?
To?
Or,
So the way, so we don't hire part-time police officers, but maybe what you're referring to, and I'll have to go back and look, is in the contract with the school district, they will not be assigned to the school district 365. you know,
right, right. Is that,
So-
that's
so-
what that means. They are part-time at the school.
Yeah, they're part-time at the
Only
school, right?
certain months out of the year. But
Okay.
They are full-time employees here entitled to
They
full-time
are full-time
benefits.
employees.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
because
You
it
know,
said,
the second officer they're adding
The
to do that
investigator,
investigative work?
Yes, he's
It's
already-
not that part-time officer, right?
No, he's already on staff here. Yeah,
There's
full-time.
we don't, no part-time police
No, the
officers.
only equivalent to possibly what would be referred to as part-time status is our impound lot clerk.
okay, that's Andy.
Yeah.
Okay, good, that clears that up. Has the feasibility study for the mall started?
It has.
It
yeah,
has?
yeah.
And do you know how long that's going to take?
Stage one, I just emailed with him today. Stage one, the work should be done at the end of this week. And so then I would anticipate him coming maybe even to September's meeting
Wow,
to give a
I would
presentation.
love that. I
I
would
know.
absolutely love that.
Yeah. So it's moving along very well.
Okay.
Yep.
There was one thing.
Great question.
Oh, well, this was for Chief Denny also, that if it's possible to maybe put signs as you're coming into the township for that, any solicitors, need to register at the police department, because I know I just had some solicitors in my neighborhood, and I called the police department, and they said, no, they did not
Good.
give anybody approval, so maybe that would be a good idea.
That's a good idea, Kathy.
Okay, and then, Greg, you said you're going on a retreat, and what is that?
So I have been all over Jeff about getting a beautification initiative together. And so the grandiose idea was originally to go out to Fishers, Indiana with all of us. And I guess we couldn't make that happen because of our schedules. So we are going to meet individually right here. I presume right here, right? Yeah, we're not going to any hotels in Oxford, I promise.
On 3 different days.
Yeah, 3 different days. It's worth mentioning. We won't all be together at
2
that
days,
retreat.
3 sessions.
Yes.
Okay, that makes me happy.
Very excited for that.
Okay, has any agreement been reached with the school board regarding the Rumpke TIF?
That issue has been resolved. I mean,
We're not finalized yet.
I mean, the township extended the Colerain Town Center TIF, and so that happened. And there has been no agreement on anything else related to the Colerain Town Center TIF.
But everything since the new board started, we've approached the school district with.
Okay, but I thought you had an executive session
Nothing's,
with the school board about the Rumpke TIF to make them whole or give them money
In their
that
eyes,
they
it
would
is
be.
most certainly not settled. And as far as I can speak, I'm still in support of agreeing with them to make things whole from the past. It takes one other board member to make something happen, and I think they're waiting to hear back from another board member and hoping that that happens. There are a lot of things on the table with future development opportunities and stuff that have been thrown out there as kind of another way to make them whole. So I would say, in my personal opinion, I would say negotiations are ongoing, or at least as of, I think we all received an email from them.
I have not, and in my.
Let me double check. I thought.
So it's where it was before, nothing's changed?
Nothing has changed, and I want to start fresh January 1st and move forward on other development and opportunities, and that's something that the last board did.
I'm certainly okay with making them whole with future development, if that's what it takes, but I do want to get that taste out of their mouth from what happened on that TIF. And
It's a dead issue.
well,
Yes.
in Dan's
Obviously,
eyes, that's a
you
dead
know.
issue. In my eyes, it's not a dead issue. And Raj is stuck smack dab in the middle with all the power.
We have to do what's in the best interest of Colerain Township.
sure.
We are the fiduciary agents for this township. whatever agreements were attempted to be made last September or last August between the former Board of Trustees and the school district. I don't know if I can say that that didn't happen or how much I'm allowed to say, but this current board looks forward to a great relationship, which I think we have demonstrated with the school district, starting with Raj and I coming into office. And I think we've worked together with them on a lot of things, Raj, and I'm not so much interested in going into the past.
We bring them to the table.
On every
We'll bring
issue.
them negotiating, understand each other, what the expectation, what's our expectation. Our goal is to build a relationship. The school board is good for the community.
Okay.
As of noon today, Amy Wells had proposed TIF sent us an email to all of us. We all received.
I have not seen it. And
Okay, well, you're
It
giving
happened
me a
at
little
noon, so
more
you have- you
information
haven't
than
had
I
time,
needed.
that's fine.
You answered my question, I'm good. But then, Mr. Unger, you just stated about your financial responsibility and stuff. This road that this gentleman talked about, that you said the town, you would make a motion for the township.
Burnside? Yes,
Yeah.
if you'd like to meet me over there, I will show you what I'm
Well,
talking about.
I don't think that's your decision. I think we need to make sure that this is township responsibility. I know Mr. Mills said we can't
Private
spend
property.
township dollars on something that's not our responsibility. And you can't just say, I'll make a motion that the township take
Well,
responsibility.
and I will.
So I think Mr. Schwarzkopf and Mr. Mills and maybe Mr. Barbier need to make confirmation on that it is our responsibility.
There is
Because if
a
it's not,
publicly funded storm main under that road.
but it's not,
And this work is
I
in the
have-
right of way, and it's holding up a.
well,
millions
you
of
still
dollar
don't know that that's township responsibility. And that's all I'm asking. I've come to meetings for 34 years and never once have I heard a motion like that.
In your
Never.
time here, did you ever deal with Burnside Drive?
No, I haven't.
That's why it's in the shape that
Okay,
it's
well,
in.
I'm just asking that you make sure, and before you go ahead with this. And do you have any idea what the estimated cost is gonna be?
Mr. Obrecht had two estimates, one for 16,000 and one for 9,000. I'm happy to meet you over there and to give you greater
have no interest
information.
in it. I don't have a say in it, so I'm just saying that you need to make sure, not me, you do.
I have made sure, and I've talked to different,
Well, I would like
people
to
at the county
know
and
that
at
it
MSD.
is township responsibility.
It's in the right of way, and if Mr. Obrecht chooses not to fix it, we're gonna have a big sinkhole and a new
So-
road, and I'm not,
So
it
if
is my
somebody else in the
response.
township
You've
has
asked me a
that problem?
question, and I'm gonna answer my question. I don't wanna have a big sinkhole on that road. We are making a huge investment back there on Burnside. We're taking a street that probably hasn't been touched in 40 years, and we're fixing it. And there's a leaking pipe. It's not anywhere near the edge of the right-of-way. It's in the middle of the right-of-way. And as the person, ultimately, the three of us are responsible for the condition of our roads. I don't want to have a new road there
Not
and have a big
pipes.
sinkhole in it.
Okay.
The Ohio Constitution calls for us, originally, we were called road trustees. And our original,
Originally, yeah.
our
Back in
original.
the Ice Age.
Well, and you probably remember back then,
do.
because
I
I do
certainly
too. And that's what it was called. And sometimes the elected board needs to make a decision, and that's what we've done
But you
tonight.
need to make sure you're lawfully allowed to make that decision. You can't just say, I'm gonna go out there and fix Mr.
We're
So-and-so's.
not fixing a private individual stuff, we're fixing something under our.
Okay, will you promise me that you will make sure it's a township problem?
It is a township-owned street.
Can I ask Mr. Mills if you will
Is
clarify that,
Burnside of
confirm
township-owned street? Okay.
But that doesn't mean the pipe is under the street is our responsibility.
Decisions
Just confirm
made-
it,
okay.
please, just do that. I also, as far as public records request, I know Heather has her hands full. There is a process you can do. You file a complaint in the Court of Claims of Ohio up in Columbus if you have been denied public records, and I have done that, and we do have a hearing scheduled this month. But I would like the board, Heather is an elected official, so she is not really tied down to any certain responsibility. We have staff that handle all of her obligations. And I have requests going back to May that I'm waiting on. And I would ask the board to appoint a township employee to assist with public record requests because it's obvious Heather doesn't have the time. She works somewhere else. And it is a township responsibility. It is not a fiscal officer responsibility. It's township responsibility to supply public records. So I ask that you consider that so that public records can be expedited. And also, the April 10th minutes were recently put on the internet, and I had questioned about Mr. Barbier and his contract for $100,000 and the board paying him and Mr. Salman as employees and contractors. And Mr. Rajagopal said that Mr. Barbier is an employee and it's time now to take new bids for legal services, and he would like to do that. And at the same meeting, when the subject was brought up, Mr. Insko said that he disagrees with the policy of him being an employee and a contractor, but this was already in place. And then Mr. Insko said the policy needs to be revised. So I would like to ask the board if they have any plans to revise that.
Go for it. Go for it.
I think my thoughts is anytime any contract with the township expires, I think it's good practice to go for the open bid, rebid again. It's fair, it's more transparency will occur. That's why me and Dan got elected. We pound on the transparency.
Okay. And that's what you had said on April 10th.
Right. And I think that's what we should do. And, answering questions his contract will expire in 30 days before that, maybe 2 months before that, put a bid and solicit.
Okay.
You
So
know,
this was
and
in
he's-
April, and here we are 4 months later, and I just wonder if anybody has even thought about doing, I know Mr. Rajagopal has made his feelings known at the April meeting, so do you two have any?
I feel the same way in also the sense of running unopposed. I don't think anybody should run unopposed. So, it's, I guess what iron sharpens iron, right? So if we got to put out for bids for it, that's fine. Or put out, that's doesn't mean that we're going to, but
Wait a minute. Let's go put out bids, but it doesn't mean we're going to?
you don't have to agree to any of them. Just because you're putting out for applications or bids or anything doesn't mean you have to. You may not find someone that you like more, or whatnot.
I'm not following you.
You're not necessarily compelled to switch.
You're not compelled to
Oh,
switch.
of course not. You're going to go with the person that you're most comfortable with or who can give you the best. Yeah, I would think that was obviously what you would do.
Yeah.
Mr. Unger, any comments?
I believe you're under contract through December 31st? That's correct. Would it be typical to post something 5 months out or 4 months, was it August, 4 months out before you're going to do something? I don't think so. No. Probably October, somewhere around there. I would guess if a majority of the board wants to do that, I would comment that when I was at the other place, the school district was sued 28 times between 2007 and 2013, and I looked at a lot of that, and I was there a lot longer, and I made the decision to get a different law firm. None of us are perfect. I haven't really had any problems with the research Larry's done, and you've been around a lot longer, Larry, than I have. Have we been sued for anything you've done?
It's not what he does, it's what you do.
No, well, our other law firm at the school district got us in trouble all the time, and
Well, I
haven't
can
had that
honestly say we haven't
experience
had
here.
any attorneys that have done that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Stephanie, did you have another, you're filled out here for another, did you have anything else? Okay. That's not unfortunate. I'd like to hear from you.
In light of recent events, I'd like to know who made the sign for the catwalk? Who physically printed that sign? You don't know?
I did
know
not.
that maybe.
I did not.
No one knows.
I would guess that it was somebody in our sign shop.
Okay.
Yep.
maybe we should double check the spelling on things before we make signs anymore. In case people don't know, they spelled Colerain wrong. Yes, they did. Shouldn't have been put up, spelt wrong in the first place. Okay. Mr. Unger, we've had this discussion before, and we seem to be going backwards or regressing. You made a new form that asked for if you had something to comment on, if it had to do with tonight's agenda
Right.
or a non-agenda item. Are we going to follow that?
My first two speakers ran over the 5 minutes that I requested, and I saw some names on here that have not been here before, and I wanted to get them in so they weren't here at 10 o'clock. And as the board president who's running the meetings, that's what I decided to do.
Okay.
When I get the other request done, I am going to take questions from the audience. It's just you've checked both boxes.
Okay. So from now on, is it okay if I just go ahead and ask my questions at the agenda time then?
It would depend on how many replies I get, and, you know, my first two speakers, the first one
I
went.
spoke 11 minutes.
Well, and that's fine, and we don't run a clock here, and I ask everybody to keep it at 5. Not so much for us, because we're here to be here, but to respect your other people in the audience that want to speak, that sit out there and go, boy, are these people ever going to stop? You know, going on 11 or 19 minutes or however long. But
Yeah, sorry.
I want to give everybody a chance to speak, so I think we've done a good
Fair.
job.
Correct. You want to make it fair.
I want to give everybody a chance to speak, and you know, we don't run a clock. I just ask everybody, you know, kind of keep it 4 or 5 minutes so everybody gets a chance to be heard.
Okay. We're doing a survey on Circle for residents' input. Is that correct? Is that how that's going to be put out?
You'll get a notification through Circle, yeah, but the survey won't be on Circle. It'll
Okay,
be
so not through Civic Plus, our new system. That's not up and running yet?
the website.
Civic Plus?
Yes, the website should be able to flick the switch on that in February of 2019.
Really? I thought there was only going to be a few months that we were going to have this new software up and running.
We're rebuilding an entire new website, so
Is that your understanding, Mr. Unger?
I know we approved a lot of software a couple meetings ago, and I know it takes a while to implement all that.
So not until February.
So wait a minute. There were lots of different software things that were approved under the Transparency Initiative. If we're talking about the website will be done in February of next year, just like I just said. The agenda and minutes, we're hoping to roll out maybe for the September meeting. So that's fantastic. And then the Budget Builder software will be ready within weeks. We are hoping to start building budget conversations in September of this year, and then the operations and performance dashboard software will follow right after the Budget Builder software.
Oh, great. So there are some things coming before
Yeah, it's just-
February.
yes.
Okay, great. I had a question about the street sweeper. Can the street sweeper sweep non-township roads?
Legally, Larry, opinion on that?
I would say they probably can, legally, yes.
But obviously it comes out of our pocketbook, so that would be the downside.
You know, because everyone's perception is that trash is really bad, especially on Colerain Avenue. And we seem to have a lack of connect with getting that going. I know we're trying.
ODOT comes out twice a year, yeah.
But if we got the street sweeper on Avenue B and it has to go to Avenue C down Avenue D, why couldn't it just
Keep it running while it's going?
Because it's 2 miles an hour when it's running. and no,
Is it really 2 miles an hour?
No, I mean,
Oh, man.
it's very, very slow. Here's the thing is that we've got like 114, 116 road miles to sweep, and our goal is to get all of the township roads swept because there are other organizations that do it. And thank you, Trustee Rajagopal, for getting ODOT to come out on September 1st and sweep the street again. But yeah, we could, absolutely. But our priority is on our neighborhood streets, and because nobody else will do it if we don't. And so that's
It's
our
just like
prioritization.
we could drop a snow blade on a county road, but we don't because we
Want to get to our
put
folks.
Well, I think if you ask most residents, what is the worst street?
Oh, of course I'd say Colerain Avenue.
What do you think, Stephanie?
Well, it's Colerain Avenue.
Yeah. So in your personal opinion, you'd be okay with our tax dollars going towards cleaning Colerain Avenue, essentially,
Of course,
with
it's
our
going to
street
raise
fair?
my property values, right?
Which
It's
is why
going
we have
to.
a Beautification Initiative coming next year that I can't wait to tell everyone about.
Okay, The float on the river event, Greg, that I know you're so excited about.
Yes.
Will there be extra staff on for
If
like?
I do it myself, no, it's just me, and if you want to come, you're invited. The whole world's invited, as far as
But I
I'm
meant as
concerned.
far as we're putting a lot of people in one area on the river at the same time. Will our fire department or any
Anybody can do
medics-
that anytime they want. The park is open to anybody who wants
No,
to come.
Will they be staffed in case an accident would occur?
Kayak event is staffed with their staffing. That is we have contracted out with a private entity. That's what they specialize in. They're going to come in, they're going to do it. It's all on them.
But I'm saying, if I'm floating down the river and there's going to be extra people there floating along, has our fire department thought perhaps about having someone a little more readily available in that area?
Called the fire department anytime I floated down that river. But in this instance, if I do get a ton of people, that want to do it or something like that, sure, I'd call them. Absolutely. Okay. And I just invited all of our employees as well. So who knows? Well, weather permitting, it's going to be a last-second call either way. But I mean, obviously, you have to use common sense. You're floating down a river. If you can't swim, probably not a good idea.
Well, not everyone has common sense, unfortunately.
I don't believe that.
Okay. You all mentioned earlier in the meeting that we have a lighting district expert. Who is that?
Who said that?
The person on staff that handles lighting district's name is Christina Hamilton.
Okay, because you refer to her as a lighting district expert. So it's Christina Hamilton. Okay. Will the law director be attending the FAC or land use meetings?
It's a great question.
They never did in the
Stephanie.
past.
No, I don't anticipate the need for that.
Any update on the Duke project? Duke. Are we stagnant? Are we moving right along? Is there any update that you can share with us?
I have no update for you.
No update, okay. Would the township be willing to waive any type of fees or assessments that have been put on that Fireside property to expedite that sale?
I don't know what you're...
I don't know that
Do we
we're
know
ever
if
going to
they're-
get paid for.
Well, I know when John Rose was going on and they were working on that development, the township waived some liens and.
I don't know if it. Yeah, I mean, so we've had a lawsuit against them for failure to pay taxes, but we dismissed that.
So that has been dismissed?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, I don't. You just propose a hypothetical. I don't know. I'd have to figure out what's
Case
going
by
on.
case for me to answer that.
The cash journal. That is a document that's posted online for residents to view, and it has to do with all the transactions for the month. The problem seems to be in the past 4 months that that's not posted until the middle or second week of the month. Is there a reason that those aren't posted at the first of the month?
For the previous month?
Yeah, and there's a very good reason. It's because we have a small finance department, and they've been overwhelmed with a lot of work recently. And so, yeah, they get it done as quickly as they possibly can.
Okay, but we're at full staff now, correct?
Finally.
Yeah, but we have had a number of events in the last 4 months, like audits, that we've been dedicating staff to. So
Okay.
that's out of the ordinary work.
Okay, so if something is done from January 1st to January 31st, and then it's put out for the next month, February 1st, why would there still be charges on there for February 7th? If it closed on the end of the month, why are there still
Does it take time for
transactions?
checks to clear or payments to be
don't know.
processed or anything?
Yeah, you'd have to send in your question and I can review that with you. I don't have the cash journal in front of me to answer that.
Okay, well, there's like 37 entries after the end of the month, and it happens all the time.
It does not. Once the month is closed, it's closed, so transactions are only available to post going forward. So it would be outstanding payments.
I know in my personal life, if I put a tank of gasoline on my Discover card and I buy it today, it might not post for 3 or 4 days. Maybe it's something like that.
Yeah, but I think what Ms. Randolph is saying is send us your question. We'll get you an answer.
Okay. The vacant property issue, 157 vacant properties recently that they were talking about that they've assessed or that we know about in the township. Do you believe that number is greater than that?
Absolutely.
Okay. And that hasn't been tracked in the previously?
What do you mean?
So you think there's more than 157 vacant properties?
How would we track that?
Well, so
They have to fill out they have to fill out an application.
Yeah, if.
Okay,
Stephanie,
so I'm saying-
I would say those kind of questions, if Jeff keeps trying to give answers off the cuff, he's liable to answer one of them wrong, and then it'll, I mean, if you could send these questions to him, it'd be easier to answer, because
Great.
if he says, I don't think it's 157, and it turns out to be 167, then at the next meeting, somebody says, you're 10, 12% wrong, Jeff, what's wrong with you?
The next thing you know, we got to put up bids for old Jeff.
Okay.
Yeah.
And from now on, can we read the addresses of the nuisance complaints or that are being issued?
I think they're on the agenda, but if you want us to
Well,
read
we've
them.
been through some meetings before, like our special meetings, and they were read and talked about, and now they just seem to be swept away. I would like it, just a request, there's 5 of them, take 30 seconds to do it. Matter of fact, I'd even quit talking for a minute earlier if you could maybe put those addresses.
Is that a bargain?
Now you put something on the table, just kidding.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Let me just take, I think that was everybody who requested to speak a second time. Did anybody have any questions about anything besides Bob? Did anybody else? Just kidding, Bob.
Besides
Come on up. Was there anybody else? So I know we just got one left. Bob, here's my Robert's Rules of Order. And my,
I'm happy to see that you've purchased a copy. And that
and my
looks like the
short,
most-
my
Oh, he
short abridged
framed
version.
it. He laminated it and everything.
Okay, just for this gentleman's benefit here, you might want to look at EDDM mail for the Colerain Township. U.S. Post Office really does a great job, and you can mail the entire area for a very reasonable price. And I was looking at the motion to establish a financial advisory committee, and I think you ought to do the same for legal services. You can do almost exactly the same procedure, have each trustee appoint somebody and duplicate the process completely. And that committee would be charged with reviewing the contract that you've got, and I think more importantly, your needs that you are going to have. And I think what I've seen this evening is a great concern over code enforcement, and I think that's an extremely important issue that has to be addressed. So I would highly recommend the creation of a legal services committee.
Are you interested in being on that committee while we're at it?
Of course.
Okay, that's what I need to.
And I'm sad to say I've received no response from anybody regarding the Ohio Supreme Court decision that I brought to you the previous time I spoke. And in that, they're not supposed to redact everything that has been redacted. And I have heard nothing in response from anybody. So that's all I've got to say.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
Was there anybody else that had a question? Hearing none. Our next item would be a executive session. Did you want to go into session, Raj, to discuss the earlier grievance thing?
I think we already voted, okay, and Larry explained a little bit. I think we'll go ahead.
We'll pass on that. Did you have any?
I would have, actually, I would have liked to have made an executive session to go in and talk about Amy Wells' email to us, but you haven't had the benefit of seeing the email yet from earlier, so I wouldn't, I think you deserve a chance to read that before we talk about that,
Okay.
if that's even allowed in executive session. Forgive me, I don't know if that's a.
Okay, so with no move to executive session, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll second the motion.
Well, you go first. Say
Forgive me.
I motion to adjourn.
I, Dan Unger.
No,
yes,
you
I'm kidding.
motion to adjourn?
Yes. I would
Let's get
like
it straight.
Dan
You
Unger to motion to adjourn.
I will motion to adjourn.
There, now I would like to second Dan Unger's motion, who
So you
was the
did it
first
right.
to adjourn.
I motion to adjourn, and Greg seconded.
And Raj would like to third it.
No. Well, somebody needs to.
Mr. Insco?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye. This meeting of the Colerain Township Board of Trustees is adjourned.